Hey, we're live. Look at that. See, I told you guys. Yeah, I can count. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Third Eye Games. I am Eloy, obviously. And this is actually going to be our session 1 of Part-Time Gods second edition. This is the actual play that we're doing. There is the chat over on the side. So if you are here live, I only see a couple people. But if you guys come in, late, feel free to chat in there. I'm going to be keeping an eye on that to see how that goes. But otherwise, we have our amazing GM, Todd. If you don't know who we are, the players or characters, we do have a whole other 2-hour session that we did. So you should probably go check that out. And but otherwise, I'm going to hand it over to Todd, and we're going to go ahead and get started.
Alrighty then. Thank you, Eloy. I will let the people who are actually viewing this and watching on their screens that if my face looks like a gear for the next little while, I went to a lot of trouble to have plastic surgery to have this done, so I would appreciate keeping the comments to yourself. Also, too, I'm working with some streaming problems tonight, so it actually runs a little faster if I hide my face. All right, and yeah, so like Eloy said, yeah. So there we go. So yeah, like Eloy said, we are going to start with part 1 of New Gods of Detroit. We made up our characters last time. I believe we are all ready to rock and roll. But let's start off with we all introducing ourselves. Obviously, everybody who's watching this knows who Eloy is. No introductions, I think, are needed at this point. And he's already introduced myself. I am Todd Crapper. I am the GM for tonight. And let me see, going with the left on my screen, Carol, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Carol Darnell. I'm the managing editor for Third Eye Games, and happy to be playing.
Yay! And then I see Crystal to my after that. Crystal, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Crystal Mazer. I'm a freelance writer, and I am the developer for PIP System Primer. And I am playing Cheyenne tonight.
Did you freeze? Did I freeze?
Oh, no, I think he froze up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there he goes. Maybe.
Oh. Yeah, okay, yeah, my signal's getting a little choppy from time to time, so
I guess,
we'll
yeah.
see how this goes. Yeah, it's getting quite choppy. So heads up to everybody that we, if we have to cancel or pause for technical difficulties, welcome to the 21st century, the early part.
Well, it does run different in Canada, right?
Yeah,
They really met the internet.
Yeah, they're going to make cartoons in the future making fun of the problems we're having now. That's how it's going to work. This is why I drink wine when I GM. Okay.
Yes, they have the Unternoot in Canada, right?
I thought so. We were told it was internet. I don't know what the hell this is. Right now, it feels like the equivalency of just like a million paper airplanes just launching into the air, passing notes. Okay, well, anyway, so that was Crystal. Thank you very much. And Phil, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Phil Vecchione, and I am the project manager at Third Eye Games. I'm the person who goes, "Is it done yet?" And the one everyone hides from week after week. And I'm playing.
You ask us what the status is.
Yeah, I mean, years I've learned how to ask it in different ways that doesn't sound like, "Is it done yet?" But I'm playing Case, the god of cars.
Nice. And actually, Eloy, I don't think you introduced your character and who you're playing, so why don't you cut in with that?
I didn't. I am playing Javier, the god of names.
And I was a dorkfish, and I didn't either. My character's name is Molly Bear, and she's goddess of data.
Perfect. Okay. Now, okay, so Eloy, we happen to have a swanky little kind of TV show trailer for this. Would you gladly pull that up so that everyone can watch it?
Sure. I actually have it ready to go this time. I mean, mostly. Here. I can share and put it on me. set it on me. Hit play.
Okay, that's actually supposed to say.
Of course, you sent me the wrong one. Of course.
No, I didn't send you an updated one. I forgot that it was like, oh yes, each episode was going to have its own. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be a proper trailer. There will be a proper opening credit.
Or not. I think the next one's
by
going to
the
say
fourth.
session 3, and we're just going to have it
yeah.
it's going to be wrong every time. It'll be funnier that way.
Yeah. You can edit YouTube live, right? That's the thing. That's
Totally.
possible, right?
I'm doing it right now. Didn't you know?
You can, but it's a terrible strain on the programmer's wrists. All right, here we go. All right, so for this game, we are playing in the city of Detroit, but we are playing in a mostly fictionalized version of Detroit. At any point in time, any well-known landmarks are going to come up, but we're basically just calling it Detroit, but we're leaving it as like a very touristy version of Detroit. We have basically some very basic safety tools and everything in place. So at any point in time, anybody, and especially too, because with my audio being choppy, I definitely recommend online that everyone just says X card. Feel free if you want to make an X symbol with your hands to basically give me the heads up that we've basically, gone somewhere with the game that is definitely broaching, a line, or it's just unnecessary. Can we please move on or go from there?
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, if anything happens to, come up, this is an open table. So if at any point in time reality steps in and must be dealt with, then by all means, feel free to simply step away, because nothing is more important than, I mean, it's gaming. Yeah, okay, nothing is more important. But in the event something actually does become more important, feel free to go take care of it.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, wait, hold on. I have to take it off of me because it should be you. There it is. Now it's not just me. Also,
the
you want to put your wealth and your free time in the chat. That's what I've done in the past, and it was an easy way to kind of keep track of everybody's wealth and free time.
Oh, yes, that would be great. Thank you very much. I was basically going to go with the trust factor. That's basically how I GM. I kind of leave it up to everybody to handle their own stuff, and then just have any questions on whether or not should I spend one for this or something like this. Yes, we have quite a few paycheck to paycheck characters in this group.
Oh, yeah. I'm the only one with any money.
Javier is definitely Mr. Moneybags in this one. So.
I mean, with 3, though, that's 3 out of 10. Like, that, I am not rolling in it. I'm just... Like I live paycheck to paycheck too. My paycheck is just slightly larger. Like
yeah.
Dude, look at that. We are all hitting you up. We are hanging out at your place.
You better take some. You better take some fares. Better get some riders there.
Now, the last thing I want to do before we get started with everything is I like to ask personally for someone to basically act as like a note keeper. So because I could be going off in a dozen directions at one time, I always find it personal to have someone else basically kind of keep a few notes on various things that happen in the game. Characters get made up on the fly sometimes. So do I have a volunteer for that?
I can keep a Google Doc open and pop back to that.
I was gonna say I nominate Phil, and Phil raised his hand.
Okay.
So.
No, I mean, but yeah, I mean, I have a notebook in front of me. I'm just gonna take notes through the game. But if we do want to actually have a Google Doc with things in it, I can also fill stuff in between games.
He's
okay, cool. Yes. That would be
I
awesome.
assumed
actually.
that the project manager would probably be the one that would actually have a notepad and paper ready to go, like at the table. That's not my thing. I'm the creative director. That's not me.
Hey, this is Phil's night off. Give Phil the night off. But
Is
yes,
it
no, that
is it
would be
done yet?
great.
No, but I'm thinking about it though. See? That's how that works.
Alrighty then, let us play some Part-Time Gods Second Edition.
Mm-hmm.
Despite what our opening sequence said, this is actually Part 1, Changing of the Guard. And I have my good old-fashioned two-dimensional notebook here going. All right, so here we go. So what I want to do with this one is, because each of our characters are basically brand new and are not even aware of the fact that they are gods yet. What I want to do is kind of like get through a kind of a prologue series of events to kind of showcase what your characters would have gone through. And basically, if we were doing this like a TV show, give us a kind of a visualization of your characters. So I'm going to have a series of questions that I'm going to be kind of asking as we do this. But basically, there are 3 things that I want us to just very quickly cover for each of these characters to showcase how they've started to discover something odd has happened to them lately. And so that's going to be something unusual. Something was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, that was weird. And something awkward. So a moment when your new divinity basically kind of got in the way of your mortal life. So it made things very awkward at a job or some kind of thing like that. And then finally, something that actually reveals your truth. And we're not going to role play out these scenes, but I want to kind of discuss them so that we can all start to get a really good sense of who our characters are. So when the next scene, when we're going to meet, we've kind of shortcutted through a lot of that stuff for ourselves. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Alrighty then, let's start with, I'm actually going to roll this D4 over here to determine who's going to start first. Oh, and it looks like we are starting with Cheyenne, played by Crystal. Alrighty then. So, are you ready, Crystal?
Yes.
Cool. Let's do it. All right. So, first thing that we want to cover is, oh my God, that's what happens when you have so many pages. Okay, quick. Hold on a sec. Okay. Something unusual. What is something that unusual that happened to Cheyenne shortly after she would have come into her divinity?
Let's see here. I would say she would probably have started seeing some weird things happening since she has otherworldly sight. So possibly running into a ghost or something.
Okay, so basically like visions of things that were like, and then the almost kind of like out of the corner of your eye, and then when you turn to look, it's kind of gone.
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of visions are those? Like are they basically things that are related? Are they water related in some way, shape, or form? What kind of things are she seeing?
I would think that it started manifesting while she was at school, possibly like in the halls of one of the buildings or anything on campus, where she might have been there one night and saw somebody walking down the hall, and they turn the corner, and when she turns, they're not there.
Okay.
Just
All
odd
right.
like that.
So in this scene where we're seeing Cheyenne actually kind of walking down the hall, what does she look like? Who is Cheyenne? Who do we see?
So Cheyenne is a young woman about in her early 20s. She is just fairly average, like a college student. She's looks kind of mousy. She keeps her hair up in a bun, and she's kind of clutching all of her books as she's walking.
Okay. What kind of attitude does she project when she walks around? So like if we're watching kind of like a montage of her daily mortal life, Like what kind of attitude do we get when we watch her, moving around, carrying on with her day?
So as she walks, she kind of seems to be paying more attention to what other people are saying or doing. Like she's more interested in their business, and it looks like it almost as if she's trying to appear not get anybody's attention or anything like that. She's actually trying to stay out of everyone's radar so that she can just sit and eavesdrop. So
Okay. All right. So it'd be the kind of thing maybe where we would see her in like kind of like a cafe maybe, and she's just kind of like jotting down various notes, inadvertently kind of picking up conversations.
yeah, sitting there, or or what appears to be people watching out on the quad space. But she always has her notebooks with her.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Let's move over to Molly. Molly, what is something unusual that has happened in the last few weeks that would have to do with your undiscovered divinity?
I would have to say first of all, she's not great with computers, even though she has the whole gig thing that she's doing. Actual computers are not her thing. She doesn't know Excel or Office or anything. She can make the apps on the phone work for her job. So she's starting to, and that's even a challenge sometimes for her, but her apps are starting to turn on before she finds them. Like if she's looking for something on TaskRabbit or Lyft, it's just like, it's like she picks up her phone and, oh, it's open, which is fun, but still a little weirding her out.
Okay. Would Molly even kind of like, does Molly have anyone in particular that she always goes to with tech questions? So like, does she have like one of her kids that she would call up to say is like, oh, I can't talk to your father on the phone or some kind of thing like that?
Well, she doesn't
Who
have
would
any kids. She does have a cousin, Elliot. He's a computer science major. She's not much for college or school or anything like that, but she has a younger cousin, and anytime something weird happens, she's like, look at it, fix it.
Okay.
To
So
interject here, is she one of those people who thinks that her phone is just listening to her anyway? Like there's a thing, right? Like if we're having a conversation about jellyfish and then I'll go to my phone and all of a sudden I have ads for jellyfish because your phone is always listening to you. Like, so that whole like your phone predicting what app you want to use it actually could fall under that kind of weird paranoia about that sort of thing.
This is, well, she's not really, I mean, she's 26. She's grown up kind of poor and not without, any computer she used was either at school or library. The only reason she has a smartphone is for all the gig stuff that she does. So yeah, she could kind of, I'm thinking maybe she's like, should I turn this thing off? But she would take it to her cousin Elliot.
Okay. All right. So if we were to see this in a TV series, who is Molly? What do we see when Molly is talking with Elliot and showing her these things? Like she, like getting into like, how good this new phone was or this old phone must be.
She'd probably ask him if he did something to it when she wasn't looking. Did you upgrade the system? This thing doesn't have Windows, does it, right?
Yeah, so I like that because then I could see Elliot, kind of coming back with it, just like, no, I haven't done anything to the phone. And then when he starts to use it, some like of these old problems, like I have an iPhone 4, insert laughter here, and it can get really glitchy depending on certain things because it's been around for a while. So I could very much see it's like having those kind of problems where it's just slow to load certain apps or certain apps keep crashing. And when Elliot tries it, it's the same problem as before. But yeah, when you're holding it, the thing just almost kind of moves before you can even hit the app button. It's already kind of opened up and loaded and stuff like that.
It's like an iPhone 11.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go over to Case. Case, what is something unusual that has happened to you lately?
So one day I love cars, and I was thinking about some of the cooler cars that people on my block own, and I was getting ready to go deliver. I was going to go do a shift on Grubhub. So I head downstairs, and one of those cars, or I think it's just, I don't even know what it is, but there's one of those cars um, right in front of my place, running unlocked. So I just jump in it, and then I start driving it around. When I realize that it's not my car, like I mean, it's actually somebody else's car. Like it didn't come from anywhere else. It's somebody else's car. I'm basically driving someone else's car, and then my phone goes off to start doing pickups, and so I don't have a choice. So I'm just gonna start picking up food in this person's car and just keep driving it around, and eventually have to like sneak it somewhere and park it so that like I don't get arrested for stealing a car.
Okay. And who do we see of, what do we see of Case, when we
Mhm.
see this kind of like this little sequence of events that take place. And I love how you throw in the Grubhub job, because I was going to say, what do we see about Case that shows he's not a car thief?
Yeah. So Case likes cars. Case likes clothes. So he's dressed in a he's dressed like in a light hoodie because he loves hoodies, sunglasses, jeans that are like cuffed at the ankle, stylish sneakers. He's like his favorite movie right now is Baby Driver, so he's got a little bit of that look going. Um, and he's a Caucasian kid, and he comes from like a lower class neighborhood. Like the car that he jumped into is clearly out of his league. He just doesn't know
Yeah.
why. He just doesn't know why it's in front of the house and why it's unlocked and starts.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
clearly, if it did, it kind of must be for him.
Now, and what kind of attitude does Case project? Like, yeah, I mean, you mentioned things as like, he's like a lower income kid and everything else like this, but as he's going and he's walking around carrying on about his business, what kind of attitude does he project?
So Case definitely projects. Case is like Case projects like he's tougher than he really is. And projects that he's like cooler. But he's actually he's like a pretty caring and decent kid. Like he always makes sure that, he picks up, something for his mom at the end of his shift and, leaves it in the kitchen for like a snack or something, like that. Like not that he would tell any of his friends he was doing that, but like that's, that's kind of what he is. Like he wants people to think he's tougher than he actually really is. He's, pretty sensitive kid.
Yeah. Okay. Nice, nice, nice. All right, and then that brings us to Javier. What is something unusual that has happened in the last few weeks to Javier, and what does Javier look like as we kind of see like this event take place?
Well, this is what Javier looks like. So pretty great that I just found a random picture online. That is actually kind of what I was thinking anyway. So that's pretty much what he looks like there. Kind of a goofy guy, but he's got an artistic streak and everything. So I can stop that now. So, yes, I would say most of the time he just kind of gives off just a generally nice, just like he's nothing spectacular. A lot of the time he mostly kind of blends into the background, and he actually likes that because he likes to be behind the camera. He likes to take a lot of candids of people, so he likes to try to come off as unassuming as possible. But what ends up happening is if you are in a conversation with him, a lot of the time he'll kind of stare and it'll seem like he's looking at you, but really he's kind of looking through you. He's kind of staring off into his own mind, just thinking about different things. That's just kind of his personality that he has. I think probably, I mean, if I wanted to go like really crazy with a weird thing that could have happened, the fact that he can shapeshift into people who he knows he knows their names, that's an interesting one. It could be something like maybe he's out drinking with his friends, and he goes up to the bar and he says, "Ooh, what's your name?" to like a woman, and then she gives him her name, and then he like turns into her. Like right in front of her. Like that could be pretty interesting.
Yes, I love that. It's almost kind of like, because I've totally seen guys, especially too when they hit on someone who has, like a very different name,
Mhm.
or with like the way that they say it with a certain accent, and they try and intimidate the accent. So I could totally see, Captain Suave, like trying to make that move, and then suddenly, like she just kind of freaks out because for a moment she's looking at a reflection of herself.
Exactly.
And
And I wouldn't necessarily say he's suave.
no, but you know what I mean. But like almost kind of like at that moment, trying to make a move, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, I like that. Okay, cool. What is okay? So first of all, I have to ask that photo you showed us, because we've established that Javier has done stock photography.
Mhm.
Is that stock photography of Javier that's then posted to stock photography?
Oh yeah, that's
Because
an
maybe
iStock
Javier,
photo. Yeah, that's on
yeah,
iStockphoto.com. Yeah.
yeah. So that's I'm just gonna saying is like, are we doing an Inception level kind of thing, that this is actually Javier took a picture of himself? Anyways.
I mean, we are
Um,
now.
the other thing I want to know is, what is not Javier's best feature or quirk? What is something about Javier that we start to see that is really kind of like the awkwardness you kind of mentioned about how he can kind of stare and look into people, but that can be the kind of thing that, artistic people can really kind of be able to pull off. What is something what is something Javier would like to change about himself?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, let's see. What would he like to change about himself? God, this is like a job interview. What's your worst trait? Um,
That I care too much.
yeah, that's usually what I say. Usually what I say is that I expect the same level of commitment out of my coworkers as I do myself.
Nice. That's a
Um,
good one.
um, and honestly, I think probably he feels like he doesn't necessarily have anybody that's very close to him. Like he's got groups of friends, but doesn't necessarily have like a best friend, or doesn't have like a person or even a small group of people who really know him. And I think it's because it's almost like a thing where he's always looking towards like the future. He's always looking at like for that next thing, and he's not necessarily kind of being in the moment.
Okay, so he's distant from people when it comes down to it, like end of the day kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does Javier have like one of those big kind of studio apartment kind of things?
I'm gonna say he's got a like medium sized studio apartment.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not a large one unless you're going to let me say like, like my family pays for the other half of it or something. Because again,
Okay.
I make the most money in the group, but it's still a very small amount of money.
Right. Yeah. You do well. Like you do well for yourself under the circumstances, and
Right.
the reason why I'm getting into this is like I really like the idea of like we kind of start to see this when we get to Javier's apartment, so to speak, and we kind of see that it's this empty, empty. He doesn't have any pets or anything like that,
Right.
and the photos that we see mounted on the wall are what Javier really wants to do. Like these are the kind of photos that Javier really wants to take,
Yeah.
compared to the stock photos that, or like the, I want to take a picture of, like of my family at the park kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
I'm
we
gonna
can kind
say
of see.
he's got a turtle. And the only
Okay.
reason he's got a turtle is because it's like super low maintenance pet. So it's like, um, but like he's got a turtle. He talks with his turtle sometimes.
Okay. All right. Cool. There we go. Now, at various points in time around, when these unusual things happen to your characters, there were also these moments where you had very almost kind of nondescript encounters with this individual in particular. And so, for example, at one point, at one point, basically with your Grubhub, you actually go to this one diner to go and pick up food for this one order, and you see someone who you swear looks like Harvey Keitel as Mr. White, sitting in this diner, and he actually kind of, like tips up, like his cup of coffee to you, but you're on your way out the door with it. And then with Molly and Cheyenne, there are various parts in your day. And Cheyenne at first is like, you don't think too much of this before because you're on like a college campus kind of thing. But you do see like someone who is in a well-dressed suit, very much kind of looks like a cop in a suit. But you swear it's Harvey Keitel. But then they kind of disappear off into the crowd on campus. And Molly, at one point, you see this individual while you're just kind of, carrying on with your day. You just happen to see this, once again, a cop in a suit who looks a hell of a lot like Harvey Keitel. But then it's kind of one of those things, and then you just kind of shrug it off and you move on. And Javier.
Way too long to try and figure out the camera on my phone to try and take a picture.
Yeah, exactly. And then all of a sudden, by that point, they're like gone, and you just kind of see some change on the counter from when he paid from his coffee. And then Javier, you actually swear that you see there's this guy at one point when you're kind of working your way back, and you swear you see someone across the street taking his like very small dog for a walk in a bathrobe, and you swear for a moment it looks like Harvey Keitel. And then when you and then you look, and this guy kind of gives you away from the other side of the street and kind of turns a corner, and then just kind of, and then they're just gone.
Okay.
Before you have a moment to pull your camera out. So each of you individually have this weird celebrity sighting of Harvey Keitel. Now, let's get into something awkward that happened with your characters as a result of this undiscovered divine power. And let's go back to... Yeah. So let me roll the dice again, and let's see who we're going to start with this time.
I was gonna say mine was like baked in.
Yeah, yours in a sense. I think we covered the awkward.
I think I got
and
mine.
Unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's say that Javier's definitely got his covered right now. So let's go with Case. Case, what is something awkward that happens because of your new divinity?
Yeah. So I am hanging out with friends, and we're like hanging out at I think we're hanging out at a diner or something. I'm 20, so I can't actually go to bars or clubs yet. So we're just hanging out, and see wherever we are, like I think we're like downtown, and there's like a lot of cars on the street and things like that. And I see this really, really cool, it's this really, really cool Mercedes Benz, right? And I kind of just am like, whoa, like that car is amazing. And I start to head with my buddies down the street, and the car starts following us. Like there's no one driving it; it's just following us. And I look behind me, and it's there. And then I try not to pay attention to it, and everywhere we go that night, that car follows us around, and no one's driving it.
Nice. Nice. I like that. I like that a lot. So what does Case do about it eventually? When it gets to the point where it's starting to look really, really suspicious, what does Case do?
So at the end of the night, all his friends leave, and the car's like still there. So Case like starts talking to it, and like thinking like it's like Christine or something, right? Like it's possessed or something. And he's talking to it, and all of a sudden a police car rolls up because they're looking for this car because they think it's been stolen. And Case knows better than to stick around and try to answer any questions with this, with this Mercedes sitting in front of him, even though he hasn't touched it or anything. So he just runs. Like he just takes off and runs and leaves the car sitting in the lot, and like hightails it for home.
Nice. Now, when we see Case, like hanging out with friends and everything else like this, what is something different that we see about Case? What is something that Case is trying to project around his friends that is not him? Like, what is it? What is it that Case does around his friends that he wished he did do better? Or sorry, like let me specify. When I was growing up, when I was a teenager, I really wished that I had the confidence to actually speak up and try and crack jokes with my friends. What is Case's equivalent to that?
Yeah, Case is let's see. What is Case's yeah, I think I think Case tries really hard to be like nonchalant and cool. But isn't really socially that suave. Like, so, he tries to come off as cool, but it almost always comes off as like aloof. Like that's his idea of cool, is like he doesn't really care about anything or whatever. So it at times it makes it awkward with his friends, because his friends can't tell if like he's just being a jerk and not paying attention to them, or like he doesn't really care to be here or something, when really what he thinks he's doing is he's trying to portray this like cool, detached, like, yeah, whatever, man, kind of thing, but it never comes off right.
Okay, cool. All right, there we go. Who amongst your friends is like the super popular, charismatic one that you wish you were?
Oh, I'm gonna get a name real quick. Hang on.
Name generator.
I am going right for it, right as we speak. I always keep one on my phone. You never know.
Marlene.
Yeah, Marlene's fine. Marlene Jensen.
Nice. All right. Cool. Let's see. Let's go with Cheyenne. Cheyenne, what is something awkward that happens to you as a result of your divine powers?
So I would say that every time she starts to get angry, water levels start to rise. And it started with like, she got angry one time. She was really upset and she was in the bathroom and all of the toilets just flooded over while she was in there.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, not nice. That's like really yucky.
I was
messy,
gonna
but
say,
yes,
like,
nice.
yes, poop. Like,
Well, I mean,
Todd has weird interests over here.
Hey, my last name's Crapper, okay? Anything that involves toilets in a role-playing game, and I'm hooked. That's right, people. I own my name. I own it. Thank you, Mo. Alrighty then. What does Cheyenne's place look like?
Cheyenne lives in a small apartment by herself. Basically it's like a bedroom with a living room that's also attached to the kitchen. So like she doesn't really have a dining room table. She basically has a TV, a couch, and like a small little corner desk that she has her laptop on. And her bedroom is pretty small. Like she has clothes strewn all over the place. It's not very well kept.
Okay. What do we see on Cheyenne's laptop that shows us what it is that what is it that she wants to do with her life? So we know that she's going to school and basically she's studying journalism.
Yep.
What is it? What is the article headline that we see on her screen when she goes to her laptop to start working on it?
I would say that the article that would be on there would probably be something about like the history of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Ooh. Or yeah, so it's something similar to that, where there's like in-depth articles, informational articles on stuff like that. And then in the background would be like some sort of gossip rag. So like the equivalent of the National Enquirer, the Sun, or the Onion, or something like that.
Yeah, okay, nice. I like that a lot. Molly, what is something awkward that happens to you as a result of your divine power?
Well, first of all, I did find a picture for her, and let's see if I can manage to share this. Okay. Well,
You realize the irony that playing the goddess of online knowledge.
yeah. So, can you see her? Is it actually showing something?
Yeah,
I'm looking
we
at
can
it.
see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, all
I'll
right.
share. So yeah, that's her. And yeah, as soon as you said awkward, so she's just on on the street outside of the Wiley shot. It's a hangout for some gig people. Some of her friends are there, and she's actually kind of tired of everyone being on their phone. She's actually trying to talk to people, and she gets frustrated. And suddenly, every instance of Siri and the Google Assistant in like a half a block radius starts reading aloud just everything that happens to be on that person's screen. Like it's this cacophony. I was looking at the powers, and I think that that could be a blast or a ruin power with crossover, since she's got the crossover domain. I think that would work. So yeah, it's just she's just really pissed, and you know, so this person's reading this series reading their grocery list, and the Google Assistant is reading a steamy text, and just yeah, little awkward.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that, and especially too the sequence I had in my head is that yeah, like someone starts reading off a grocery list, someone else's phone suddenly turns into speakerphone, and just their spouse just like like yelling and berating them over the phone. Another one starts kind of reading aloud, like the sexting that's actually going on as this person's walking down the street, and then it cuts to this other, like young woman who's basically just there walking down the street, and then all of a sudden her phone just kind of says, "This is a dick pic," and then she's like, "Ugh," and then you just see her swipe.
Cool.
But yeah, no, I like that, and yeah, and there's this kind of realization, and it's almost like as it follows Molly down this street, literally you start to feel this like you're the epicenter. Like whenever you see these sequences in movies and stuff where someone's like everything weird is going on around you, and you start kind of running away to try and escape it, and it's just going with you the entire time.
Because she would be like, okay, this is too weird for me, and she notices her phone's not doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Okay, cool. And so there we go. Yeah, and then Javier's got his awkward one down. Now, at these times when these happen, and not exactly at the moment, but like shortly afterwards, you get these Harvey Keitel sightings again, where each of you happens to see this person, except in this particular case, there are moments where Harvey Keitel just happens to walk past you. And it's basically, and he just kind of nods and says, "Good morning," or "Good day," or just whatever it is to go with the moment. Like if it's a rainy day, he just happened to says like, like this rain's never going to stop, is it? And then they're just gone. He just disappears into the crowd. Those of you who would be inclined to search, and I don't care what the facts say, you do look and see that Harvey Keitel was actually born and raised in Detroit. I'm really hoping that's true, and I meant to look it up to see if it was. I never thought about it until last night.
I'll look
But
it
we're
up
gonna
right now.
change it.
Nurse.
Yeah. So you find out Harvey Keitel was actually born and raised in Detroit. No one remembers seeing him in a movie for a while, so it's
Brooklyn,
like,
New
oh,
York.
okay.
Brooklyn, New
Yeah.
York.
All right. Well, anyways, like I said,
Family member.
we're
In
turning
this
it.
world, it's Detroit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, okay, so there we go. So now let us do something with that involves your truth. And I'd also like to place this so that it happens at everyone's job, something to do with your occupation, so that the audience can get a really good sense of really what your mortal life encompasses. So I'm going to roll the dice and let's see. Well, it looks like we're starting with Javier this time. So Javier, what is something that happens? And let's make this something, make it kind of like big and undistinguishable, where it's just like something weird is going on, and there's no denying that, things are not right.
And it should have something to do with one of my truths.
Yeah.
All right, because my truths are like very unassuming, except for the shape-shifting one. Because my other one is I know I can speak any language and I can like act quickly. So it's like, the other two are like really kind of. So let's see.
Yeah, but are you aware that you can speak any language? Like,
No,
did it
I
just
guess
come?
not.
Did it just come up somewhere? Like, that all of a sudden you needed to know, Sri Lankan, and bam, like you're just conversing.
Yeah. Well, let's do something like that. Let's say it's something like let's say there's a car crash. Like I'm doing like a photo shoot in front of like a deli or something, for like, promotional ad stuff. And we could just say that there's like a car accident, and I don't know, let's make it, well, we're in Detroit. There's not like a Chinatown in Detroit. I was going to say like, oh, maybe I'm in Chinatown and I
Well, they can be.
start saying Mandarin stuff. Well, I guess there can be. You're right. we can make up whatever we want. Ivy Cartel is from here.
Exactly.
So we'll say something like that, like I'm in Chinatown, and let's say that the person who got hit was an older person, probably an older immigrant who hasn't necessarily learned English, and I like go over to try and help, and immediately start speaking, Mandarin or Cantonese or whatever they speak. And I actually, I don't have a whole lot of first aid or anything like that, but I like know enough to kind of help with the situation. And because of that, they describe the car to me, and then I'm able to like snap a picture of like the license plate of the car as it's driving away, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. I can even kind of see almost like a moment in that where the old man actually says to you, it's like, "Oh, you speak very fluent Mandarin," and you respond back in Mandarin, "Oh, I don't speak any Mandarin."
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's when he says, like, "You're speaking Mandarin right now," and we see this in the subtitles below, and Javier is almost just kind of like, "No, I'm not."
And that would be like if we wanted it to be fun for the subtitles, but I think my character would be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it would be subtitled in Cantonese for after. But yes, I think it's better if I say I don't speak. Anyway, but well, go on.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right. Cool. I like that. Very, very nice. Let me see. Do I want to give you kind of like one of these little bonus character questions here? No, I feel like I've got a really good idea of Javier at this point.
Sweet.
So let's go to Molly. Molly, what is something that happens involving one of your truths that takes place while you're working?
Oh, she's delivering groceries, so she's doing an Instacart thing. And so one of her truths is that she can. Oh no, I got a better one. Sorry.
No, good. It's all good.
Elliot's trying to convince her to get a laptop, and so he takes her to Best Buy because she doesn't know what she's doing. She'll go along with it. She's got a little bit saved up. She's like, it has to be simple. It has to be cheap. So while he's talking to the geek gal who is talking about specs, she's just feeling way out of place. And she starts looking at the laptop going, I'm not exactly sure why I need you. And then it types on the screen, I can actually be rather helpful.
Nice.
So at first she thinks it's this kind of just like a little joke, and and then she is looking around for like someone remotely controlling the computer, and and then it says, "I'm right here," because she can speak to computers, but it doesn't speak. It doesn't say anything out loud. Just on the screen where you would normally see like the logo of the store. That's
Okay.
something she can't ignore.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Now, what does she do about the laptop? Does she get the laptop?
hmm.
Can she get the laptop?
Well,
I was gonna say she can only really get the laptop if like her friend is also buying it for her because she has no money for a laptop.
Yeah. So does Elliot? But like Elliot's the one trying to convince you of this. Is Elliot? I mean, Elliot's a student,
yeah,
so
but he's pretty bright, computer science, and you can get a very simple laptop for something along the lines of $300 at Best Buy. At least you can over here. So, I mean, we're
Yeah,
talking
okay.
extremely simple. It's not like there's games or anything like that. It's just,
Even with that, I would say that's like minimum 2 wealth.
right.
Yeah.
I would say he would be getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. All right. So here's the thing that I'd like to kind
but it
of
stays in the box for a while.
yeah. Okay. I was almost kind of wondering too if there starts to become kind of like these additional events to really kind of augment, where it's just be like, was that computer just talking to me? But then there's other things that start to happen and say like, oh my God, that computer was right. It's exactly what I need. It would be entirely helpful. So I could almost kind of see like Elliot kind of comes over and suddenly the message is gone.
Yeah.
And he goes and he takes a look and says, like, you know what? Actually, this one looks like it would do the trick, you know. And I'm obviously not technical, so I'm just going to make up words I hear a lot online. It's like, like it's got a good processor so that like, you could actually do your video games with. The video card's looking pretty sharp and everything like that, And he's just like, and Elliot actually makes a recommendation on it, but it's one of those things you just don't have the cash for it. Couple of weeks later, you go back and you actually see that they're having like this floor model sale. So they're trying to actually clear out all the floor models because, like for whatever the reason is, and you look at the price that's now on the laptop and it's actually like, it's right within your range,
Ooh.
So,
Yeah, that's so freaky. But yeah, I'm interested now.
okay. All right, there we go. So it goes down in price to a way that can actually be like a wealth one. All right. All right, cool. There we go. Cheyenne, what is something that happens with your truth? And in your particular case, I think we've established your occupation quite well. So
Yeah.
I would say it doesn't have to involve your work.
Okay. So I would actually say she was probably hanging out on the beach with some of her friends, going swimming. And something happened where she gets her foot stuck underneath the water and is unable to free it for quite some time. And that's when she discovers she's able to breathe underwater.
Ooh.
Oh, yes. Yes. And then once Cheyenne discovers this, what does Cheyenne do with it? Does Cheyenne quickly come back, come back to the surface eventually and just kind of like, okay, well, that was weird, and then move on? Or does Cheyenne embrace it and like try and push it to the limit and go like deep diving, like in Lake Michigan?
I would actually say she would at first go back to her friends because at this point, she doesn't want any of them thinking something happened to her and to go look for her. And then I would think that she would come back probably later at night when there's not a lot of people around and try doing some sort of reckless type of going out to the breakers or something like that and testing it out.
Okay. Alrighty then. I'm looking at your attachments and I really kind of feel like because you mentioned the fire dancers that
Yeah.
would normally be located along the beach. So actually, here's a good thing that we can do with this. Because you have an attachment of the beach as like a landmark attachment, do you go to this particular part of the beach, and what does it look like? Is it like a very public area of the beach, or is it kind of like a private corner? What is this area in particular? What's a signature part of this landmark for you?
I would think there's it is it is mostly public. Like there's a large swath of it that's generally public, and then as you get a little bit further from that area, there's a smaller part that's still public, but generally it's like the area that nobody really wants to go to because there's either a lot of weeds by it, or like the kids that are there in that area tend to be the ones that splash more or throw sand or, goof around a little bit more. And like the families don't want to be around that. So they stay away from that area. And I am picturing that there is a lighthouse out in that area.
Okay, nice. A lighthouse. Okay, cool. There we go. So in that particular case, then we can, use that to specify your particular area of the beach is the one that has like the lighthouse and stuff like this. All right, nice. And so let's get to Case. Case, what is something that happens with your truth? And you've already mentioned the Grubhub thing and everything like that. So yours I don't think, needs to be limited to your occupation.
Okay. So I'm out with friends, and we're out we're out late, and Marlene has to. We were all hanging out, and Marlene had to meet her. She had to get home in order to get to leave for the airport, right? Like she was supposed to like go home, meet up with her family, and then they were all going to leave for the airport to go on a trip. But in goofing around and hanging out, we actually we're all hanging out and we go way too long. And Marlene gets a text from her family like, you had better get to the airport, otherwise you're going to miss this flight to Florida. And she's in a panic, and it's across town, and it's a ridiculous distance across town. Like there's no way like an Uber or Lyft or anything's going to get her there. And I'm like, you know what? I got it. I can do this. And we get in the car, and I drive in a way that leaves Marlene pale and shaking when I drop her off at the airport. But with time to spare. Like I weave through traffic, I time lights, I just like I switch lanes at random, but it always seems to work. Like I basically can at that moment, like I can feel the pulse of all the cars moving and just like drift like through them, like in the in-between spaces, even when they're not even aware what they're doing. Like I find like this like perfect path through all of them.
Nice. Oh, I like this. So this is why if we actually made a TV show based on these characters, that's why we'd need to have a stunt team. And I'm starting to think that the underwater sequence is why we need to have a really good CG team. So there we have. All right, cool. I like this. Okay. Now, there's Harvey Keitel things during all this other kind of stuff. But let us get into the first full scene of the game where we're going to get the characters to come together and we're going to start making some revelations here. So let me see. There is, because this takes place in Detroit, and despite the fact that Detroit has definitely been changing over the years with the changes in the economy and especially the car market going far more international, one of the things I do want to play up with Detroit, and because of the fact that it relates to so many actors, really having a wealth of one. So literally, like just being able to pay the bills and kind of, have a few little perks and that kind of stuff. Where basically, Detroit has not really done too well in the last little while. But the one thing that Detroit can always count on is a car show, and a really good big car show. So I want to say, and I think, like I said, if anyone has any other ideas as to why their characters would make it there, Case, I think it's a given why you would be at a car show. That's a
I've been going to him since I was a little kid.
Exactly. So there's the next car show that basically comes up and Case is there. And it's even one of those things too where it's like because yeah, with Grubhub you wouldn't necessarily have a boss, but it could be one of those things where it's like even when money is tight, you actually go and you make a delivery and you've got the client there is basically the customer just doesn't quite have enough cash and actually says, can I just like give you these tickets? I was supposed to go to the auto show. I'm not going to be able to make it. If I just give you this, can we call it even? And it's like yoink. So no, it's almost just like just has a way to the car show and you thought you were going to miss it for the first time ever because you couldn't actually afford to get in. Does that sound good for Case?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
All right.
I try to play real cool about it, like, oh yeah, sure, tickets are fine, yeah, that's cool. But inside, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, and it's almost like as soon as the door closes, like a couple of dozen fist bumps and everything like that.
Exactly.
Job, skip down the steps. Cheyenne, I could easily see because let's say that there's actually some students from your college who are actually there and they built something. So you're there to cover something for the school paper, and that's what brings you to the auto show. Okay, cool. Molly, I'm literally thinking is that and because having worked trade shows before, someone actually places an order, so you're actually there delivering like food or something like that.
Yeah.
And you're walking around looking for this one particular vendor, and then
Possibly
Javier.
even multiple.
Yeah, or there could be like a bunch of them where it's just like, yeah, they all get bulked together.
It could
And
be that, or possibly Elliot has a booth at the car show and she's there helping him with his booth. That would be another way to do it.
Yep, that's true. Which way do you want to go about it, Molly?
Well, if it's at the yeah, he could be promoting the college. It's not like it would be odd to see a local school there trying to get people interested. So yeah, we could do the booth thing, and she's actually bringing them food. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. There we go. Cool. And then Javier, I can easily see basically taking photos, like for somebody in particular, or you just going casual. So it's like the whole idea of like these fancy cars there. What do you think? What reason would Javier be there at the car show?
I was thinking I might have like a press pass. Because maybe I got hired to like take some photos of the event by like the local newspaper who's going, and like the reporters there too, and they're participating in the events and stuff, and they're actually gonna write the story. But my job is to go around and get candids and shots of the car and just general work.
Yeah,
general pics around the place. So,
yeah. Okay, cool. There we go. So the four of you are all at the car show. And I think I'm showing how little I know about car shows by calling it a car show, but there we are. Now, as the four of you are milling about individually, at some point in time, each of you sees Harvey Keitel again. So in the case of, let me see. So in the case of Javier, you're walking around, and once again, and you see Harvey Keitel walking around in his bathrobe, and he's got a cup of coffee in his hand. And he basically he walks up behind you at one point when you're taking a picture, and he kind of has like a bit of a comment about like the framing of your photo and everything else like this, and then maybe you might think about changing it to a different filter. And then he goes and he just kind of starts walking into the crowd a little bit. What do you do?
everyone's a critic.
You know what? If you said that like he walked up behind me and said a different thing, like that's kind of the thing with me is that if I'm in the middle of taking the picture and somebody said, oh, you should try a different, filter or whatever, and I'll just be like, oh, I left that filter in the bag. I'll have to call Anita and Gita. Like I probably wouldn't even turn around or anything. I would just think it was just some random person, and I would respond vocally. But if I'm doing this, Like that's kind of the thing with my character is if I'm doing this until I'm done. You know, and then after I was done, if I then turned around and he was kind of gone, I'm okay with that. But I probably wouldn't immediately respond. It would probably be a delayed response. I would just respond to it normally, and then it'd be like, "Oh, hey, wait a minute."
Yeah. So you know what? So then there's this other moment, actually, you know, because now he's disappeared into the crowd. But then there's this other moment where you're about to go and take a picture, and he literally like steps in just as you take the picture. So you get like the left side of Harvey Keitel's face blurring into the shot, and that's when he kind of steps in and said, like, like back when I started working, you know, and especially too on the Duelist, there's just nothing better than actually working in film. And he just starts kind of going into this almost kind of like old man retired kind of tirade about how things used to be done. And then when you stop and you look, it's fucking Harvey Keitel is actually standing in front of you, and he's got a
Right.
bathrobe, and he's still got the same cup of coffee that doesn't look like he's touched it. And he's just
from days
talking to you.
ago.
Yeah, and he's just talking to you about the joys of film versus digital.
Okay. Well, I mean, so my character, Javier, huge Pulp Fiction fan and whatnot. So he is, you know, likely just going to talk about film with him. And I'll debate him. I will be like, no, actually, digital has a lot of advantages over film, and you know, blah blah blah. And we can like, there's no need for a dark room, and there's no need for this, and you can set all your settings right there. Like, I'll just stand there and I'll just actually debate him because I'm not thinking he's anything supernatural. I'm just treating him like he's Harvey Keitel.
Yeah.
Who just so happens to be in a bathrobe. I don't know. You know, celebrities are
They're
quirky.
eccentric.
I'm just saying, you know, when you have enough money, you can do pretty much anything you want at that point. I mean, it's odd because, you know, he is wearing exactly the same thing and everything. I'm registering that as well, but I'm trying not to react to it at this point because mostly I'm trying to feel it out and see if maybe he gives something away during the conversation about that, as opposed to me going, "Hey, what are you doing?" You know, I'm more like having the conversation and seeing if something slips.
Okay. It when you kind of start to think that way, and you're starting to kind of pay attention to stuff like that, you know, like once you get over like the shell shock of seeing, you know, Harvey Keitel just talking to you, you know, and everyone else is walking around like nothing.
Right.
Yeah, and eventually it's kind of one of those things where you notice that he's just carrying on. He really kind of comes across as this almost kind of senile old man who's basically just living the old days. And you really kind of get the sense is like he showed up as that character in Pulp Fiction. It's like he's almost cosplaying as one of his own characters. And then at this point, you really kind of start to get this impression that it's just be like, I think this is just like one of these really good celebrity impersonators.
Oh, okay.
And
Oh.
it just kind of shrugs it off and everything else like that in particular. But then all of a sudden at one point, he turns to you and he kind of puts his hand on your shoulder and said, like, I like talking with you, Javier. And it's one of those things, I'd like to talk to you some more about something that I think would be, you know, a little important to you. And he basically, excuse me. And that's
Well,
basically when he goes and he hands you a little business card that has like absolutely nothing on it. It's just blank. Just a blank white business card. And he goes and he hands it over to you.
Okay.
What do you do?
Well, I mean, obviously, my brain immediately will go and look for the name on the card, and if there is no name, then I'm kind of looking at him and mentally going, "Why isn't your name on this card?"
So
So
when you're looking at it, like you're kind of flipping it around both sides and everything.
yeah, exactly. So like for
Okay.
me, it's like you know, being the god of names, probably my name stuff would pop in somewhere.
So when you touch this card, it suddenly turns into it almost like purple ink suddenly just fills up the card. And there is suddenly you can see the cosmos inside this card. And then it just flashes and it's like gone. It's just evaporated in your hand.
Okay.
And then that's basically when he just kind of gives you a bit of a wink and he just starts moving into the crowd.
Interesting.
What do you do?
I take pictures of him as well. I'm basically going to try and like stalk after him and take pictures of him because now I'm going to like I want to figure out what he's doing. But obviously, I have a zoom lens and everything, so I can be kind of a distance away. I don't have to be all up in his biz or nothing. But I'm basically going to stalk him for I don't know, good hour.
Okay. All right.
I got time to kill. I took a bunch of
Okay.
pictures right when I got here.
Okay. Let's go to Molly. Molly, while you are there, literally working at the car show, you get a text message,
Okay.
and
And
you go, you look at the text message, and it's the text message just says, "Hey, it's me, Harvey. I need to talk."
I immediately look around for a 6-foot rabbit. No.
Let
Thank
me
you,
write that down.
All right. Sure, why not? She responds back, where?
And the text that you get back is, like, follow me.
I look up and around.
And that's when you see that Harvey Keitel guy basically kind of moving around through the crowd, and he basically just like kind of closes up his phone, and he's got like the exact same model of phone you do. Which
Dun,
I
dun,
believe,
dun.
yeah, if I remember correctly, I mean, like, let's face it, like with today's technology, nobody has the same phone. But it's
No.
like, like your phone is definitely like this older model phone.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, and he uses like the same thing. And that's just kind of something that catches your eye because everyone else has like all the fancy new phones. All your friends have like the wireless earbuds and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You still have like the frayed earbuds that are actually working better than they ever did before. And yeah, you just see Harvey Keitel, and once again, he's dressed in the suit. He looks like a GI, and he's basically kind of moving his way through the crowd.
Okay. I will kind of call behind me. Elliot, you got this right. Okay, bye, hun. I gotta go somewhere.
Okay. Wow, that
attentive.
was quite easy actually.
She's curious now, and once you've got her curiosity really piqued, yeah, she's gonna follow this little train where it goes.
Okay,
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
All right, Cheyenne, you are walking around and you are basically, you've kind of done your coverage of the student engineers, and you kind of going around and just kind of doing your thing, mingling to see what else you pick up on. And it's at this point where all of a sudden someone actually like from just behind you and off to the side actually says your name, and you swear it's Harvey Keitel's voice.
I'm actually going to be like she probably actually wouldn't know who Harvey Keitel actually is. She just noticed that maybe he is just an eccentric old man. So I actually don't know if she would realize that it's Harvey Keitel.
Okay, all right. So basically, a male voice, from behind you, just a little off to the side, says your name to get your attention.
All right.
And when you turn around, it's this familiar-looking person that you've seen before on campus. And let's say in your case, then you maybe have seen him like a few other times. Like this person seems to be around on campus. And when you've asked other people, no one's seen anybody like this. But you've just kind of seen this person who's just like, you just kind of get the sense that they're like a homicide detective or some kind of thing like this. And now this person's standing in front of you, and he goes and he actually holds up a badge, and it actually says Secret Service on it. And he says to you, it's like, I was just kind of wondering if we could talk about a little something in private.
She'd be like, dude, I know my rights, and I know my right to protest. I know I don't have to go with you at all.
Yeah.
Oh, you're arresting me.
Yeah,
No,
and
no.
he goes in with this like, yeah. No, this is just, it's not unofficial business. I was, you know, it's a little awkward to try and talk to you about this out here in a public area. I was just kind of wondering if we could just kind of go aside and just have a little coffee and just kind of talk about something. And when he does, he just kind of slips in something with this story that you've been working on lately, and he mentions something about another couple of stories that he's seen that you have written. And it just immediately, I mean, and this could totally be getting your suspicions up, or it could come across as being like a huge compliment. But it's just like this, basically, the Secret Service agent he definitely knows who he's talking to, and he has done his homework.
Are you stalking me? Because that's just weird.
No, ma'am. No, there's no stock involved. It's just whenever we decide that we need to talk to somebody about these kind of situations, we have to make sure that we've done a very extensive background check. And I think I'm hoping that you'll be able to understand. I didn't mean to startle you. This happens all the time. He's kind of charming about the whole thing, and he's just kind of like this little kind of like, older middle-aged man and stuff like this. And he kind of has like this little bit of charisma to him that you don't quite understand what the big deal is. And various other things that I've heard about Harvey Keitel reviews. It's just like, I don't know why he does it for him, but there's something about him that I find the sincerity in him. And he is one of the things, and he does apologize. He introduces himself, and he actually introduced himself as Agent Harvey Keitel. And because that name doesn't mean anything to you, it's just be like, okay, and so do you reciprocate the handshake? Do you kind of start to warm up or relax a little bit, or are you still tense around him?
She doesn't reciprocate the handshake. However, she goes, as long as we meet in a somewhat public area, I don't care if we step off to the side, but I'm not going in any rooms with you.
Okay, good enough. And he's like, no, and I understand that. So I tell you what, and he goes and he pulls out a little business card and he just writes on the back, he just, writes a little something down. And then he goes and he hands it to you. And before you really get a good look at the card, he says like, just, meet me here in 30 minutes, and I can explain everything to you.
Okay. So she'll
When you
take
So when you take the card and you're able to look, and it's actually the name of kind of like this little, it's like a cafe kind of booth. Sorry, it's a cafe that is actually like just down the block from
Okay.
where you are right now. And then all of a sudden, that's when this purple ink comes across the card, and you swear that you are able to see the cosmos through the card before it just kind of, and then it just evaporates into a puff of light. And
Okay.
then all of a sudden with that, and then the agent is gone.
Oh, okay. She's gonna like hold it up to the light flat to see if like maybe there's like any of like the raised lettering, like maybe they figured out a way to do like chameleon paint with printer ink, like a car flip type of thing or whatever. And just try to figure that out for just a second before she just pockets it.
Yeah, it's at this point you're just holding like this kind of, it's just a piece of paper and everything like that. You can't see anything discernible about it. You maybe even give it like a little bit of a tear, and it's like, okay, that's paper, and then it's gone. And yeah, but I mean, does this arouse curiosity more into just be like, what is this about? Or is it almost kind of like the human psyche says, well, that was too weird, so that must not have happened?
I think it's more of a whole like she's trying to analyze what parlor trick he used on her to accomplish this business card thing. Like she's seen hokey street magicians and stuff like that, and she's like, okay, well that was pretty good, creepy but good. I don't know. She's just gonna go just to see what goes on.
Okay, all right, cool. Let's go over to Case. Let me see. So Case, as you're kind of milling about and you're checking all these different kind of cars and everything like that, what is this one car in particular that Case just kind of stops at and what is like the ultimate car for Case? And you don't, I don't need specifics, but it's like, what is like the ultimate car that Case stops at, and he's just like, just dumbfounded that he gets to actually look at this thing.
Yeah, I think it is probably, it's probably something like a, let's see, it's American, so I think it's going to be like the Ford Mustang, like the Shelby GT.
Nice.
It's completely completely ridiculous, modern version of the muscle car. Is where he's at, and not that he doesn't like American-made cars, because he loves all cars, but this one, he has especially as of late, has had a weird obsession with Ford cars.
Okay. All right. Nice. So while Case is there and looking at the Shelby, that's all of a sudden you hear this voice just come over towards your left, from this man standing beside you, and it's just he whistles. And I'm not going to do it because A, I can't whistle too well, and B, it might throw the sound levels off.
There you go. Fair.
Let's reverse the order of importance on that one. And that's when this person says to you, just be like, they didn't make him any better than that. And when you kind of turn and you look over, it's fucking Harvey Keitel. Harvey Keitel is standing next to you, and he is dressed exactly as he was as Mr. White in Reservoir Dogs. And
then we have like the same sunglasses, right? So like,
yes.
We're just like eyeing each other up, and I'm like, haven't I seen you before?
And he actually kind of reached over and he, goes to shake your hand, and he says, like, only in your favorite movies, and he gives you like that little bit of a wink again, and then he's just kind of standing next to you, admiring the car.
Yeah. You like it?
Yeah, and he starts rhyming off the different kind of, like features and, and everything about the car, like, throwing out a lot of stuff that clearly I have no knowledge about.
Yeah, all sorts of terms of, yeah.
Oh, the pistons, yeah. Like they never made as many pistons in this car as they did in any other car, and somewhere in numerous places in the world, people are cringing just listening to this.
Yeah, I think I'm reasonably impressed because he's right. Like, I know all these things too, right? And I didn't expect anyone to be, especially Harvey Keitel, did not expect to be this into this car as well.
Yep. But he then kind of turns and says, like, but there's just something not quite perfect about this one, is there? And he kind of looks at you, and it's like just the tone, and it's almost like he's implying, you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's almost there.
What is it? You can tell me. And he's even kind of like, motioning you to come close so you could just whisper it.
Yeah, so I explained to him like how they could have kind of what they could have changed in the engine that would have actually increased the torque by just a little. Like, it's pretty close. I feel like another model year they'll have figured it out.
So he kind of gives you the bit of a nod and everything like that. And he said, like, see, that's exactly the kind of person that I'm looking for to join my crew. And he goes and he reaches inside his jacket pocket and he pulls out a business card and he hands it over to you. And he says, like, if you want to find out some more, just meet me at the cafe down the street in half an hour.
Sure, man. Sure, Harvey. Sure, your car crew. Yeah, I'm down for. Are we robbing something?
No robbery. No, there's nothing like that. No.
Okay.
Well, maybe.
Maybe. You're like dressed for a robbery.
Well, my character only dressed one way. And he then kind of motions the card toward you. It's almost just kind of like, take the card.
Yeah, I take the card. It's not the weirdest thing that's happened in the last couple of weeks.
And when you take the card, the same thing happens. It's like it all of a sudden turns into like this purple ink suddenly starts to fill up the card, and you feel like you can actually see the cosmos through it, and then it just kind of there's a blink of light, and you're basically just holding a plain white card again.
Yep, correction. This is the weirdest thing that's happened to me.
But unfortunately, you're now standing there in front of the Shelby all by yourself when you say this out loud.
Huh. Weird.
So it is half an hour later, and in a cafe down the street from the auto show.
Hold on, just to be the rules lawyer here. We
Yes.
all needed to pay a free time for the scene we just did.
Yes, you are right.
And
Let's
if
get
we're
into the
moving on
mechanic
to a
parts.
new scene, we need to pay another free time for that.
Now, no, for me, this is actually still part of the same scene.
Okay.
Yeah, so no additional free time. But yes, you're right. To kind of get the ball rolling on this, everyone needs to spend a point of free time.
Right.
Cool.
Does
So
my
yes,
thing have an effect here where I go if my free time is spent in blocks of 5?
oh, okay.
Well,
So
that's for movement.
Okay.
So he says we're not going anywhere right now, so that's not going to factor in right now.
yeah, you're just going
Got it.
down the street. You're just going down the street at this point. Alrighty then. So yes, in a cafe, just down the street from the auto show. Basically, the four of you almost kind of arrive almost kind of instantaneously. So, who are two characters that actually kind of bump into each other at the main door of this cafe?
I think I recognize Molly. Like
Probably.
we've passed each other picking up food, or rides and things like that. So
Yeah, and if you're ever at the like the bar or whatever, then maybe.
no,
So
I'm too young. I can't go to a bar.
yeah. Okay.
Hey, I remember you.
You picking up?
No. No, I'm meeting some weird dude. No,
Um,
I mean not like that, but I don't know. It's weird.
Does he look like Harvey Keitel?
Yeah.
And she holds up her phone and shows the text.
I hold up this blank card. I have this.
So yeah, let's is he here?
I don't know. I was just gonna go in.
Oh yeah. I thought we were already in, sorry. So yeah, let's see what this is about, because I'm curious.
Yeah.
So when the two of you go inside, you go and you look around, and obviously, like there's quite a few people in here because the auto show is just up the road, and there's a few people that are getting coffee that's obviously better than the coffee they're serving in the auto show. But you notice that at this one booth that's down at the very far side of this cafe, you see Harvey Keitel, but he doesn't look like the same Harvey Keitel that you all saw. It's almost kind of like he's Harvey Keitel if he had kind of like a straggly goatee, let himself go a little bit, and was wearing a beret backwards. And he's just sitting there, and he's just, kind of like, just chowing down on whatever it was that he ordered. So
Aw.
this is not the Harvey Keitel that you met half an hour ago.
Hmm.
Damn. I really didn't want it to be an impersonator.
Well,
Yeah.
do you approach?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you do, he basically, you can see that he's basically eating like this giant stack of pancakes, just loaded with syrup. And he's just there, and he's just, chowing away and everything else like this. And then that's when he realizes there's two people staring at him, and he goes and he looks up, and with like his mouth full and almost spitting out pieces of pancake while he's talking, basically says, "Oh, well, that's right. Yeah, sit." And he then continues eating away. And there's this initial moment of a kind of awkward silence while the two of you are just like, well, what did you want to talk about and everything? And before you're able to even say anything, he just sticks his hand up. And he basically says, he's like, sticks his one finger up, like, no, just give me a minute. And he just keeps eating, and it just kind of leaves the two of you just kind of sitting there with a kind of a plumper looking Harvey Keitel than you were expecting. just sitting there mowing down on pancakes.
Would it be possible to back up just a little? Because you said we were standing over him. I want to look at Case and go, I will rock, paper, scissors you for who gets the outside seat.
No, it's cool. I'll slide in.
All right.
Sit down.
Nice.
I've been having a really weird month. It's fine. It's fine.
Me too, actually.
Who walks in next, Javier or Cheyenne, or the both of you?
I see myself probably showing up last. I was the one who was kind of stalking everything.
Okay, gotcha. So let's go to Cheyenne.
I want to see who shows up before me, and I'm taking pictures of like, you know, and stuff like that.
Alrighty then. So Cheyenne, when you arrive at the diner, what do you do?
I'm gonna look around for the old man, and not seeing exactly the dude that I saw, just kind of sit at like one of the counters.
Okay.
I don't know who this dude is.
and when you do, Harvey Keitel, he actually just kind of looks past these two other people that's sitting at his booth, and he just snaps his fingers like up in the air, and then he just kind of goes like, you know, Cheyenne. And he's got like a little bit of like pancake still in his mouth and everything like that, but he's actually calling like, you know, Cheyenne, and he's like waving you over, but almost kind of like rudely waving you over, like, yeah, come over here and sit down and shut up.
I'll turn around.
I am gonna just kind of go over there and be like, and you are.
And he says, like, Harvey Keitel, we were talking earlier. Come on, sit. And he actually kind of like, you know, like bangs his hand on the table. He's like being like a really crude, crass kind of a person at this point. Basically says, come on, sit. And he kind of motions for everyone to kind of, you know, scooch over and make room and everything like that. He's not making any room on his side whatsoever. He's like claiming this whole side.
I'll scoot down for Cheyenne.
Okay.
Shake her hand. Hi, Molly.
Hi. I'm very confused.
Is it a round table, rectangular table? What kind of table is this?
I was literally picturing like a booth, so like a rectangular table.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, who's having a thunderstorm?
Right?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, I think
Nice.
Zeus approves of what we're doing. There we go. So Javier, you have now seen these other kind of people come and go, and even then, like through the lens of your camera, you could even see where this Harvey Keitel-looking person is sitting, and there's three other person that have joined him and sat with him and stuff like this, and you know, you can see that it's just like, this is weird. None of them look like they want to be there all of a sudden. But there's Harvey Keitel, you know, definitely looking different. But that's Harvey Keitel, no doubt about it. So what does Javier do?
I'm actually just gonna come in, and I'm just going to you know, since I already know these people, he approached each of these people after me, and I've been kind of following and everything. If it's a booth, I'm going to pull up a chair to the booth and not sit in the booth. You know?
Okay.
I'm kind of pulling up chair to the side of the booth. And I'm not even going to say anything. I'm like just coming in and just putting down my bag and like acting like I'm just supposed to be there. So like almost like I'm an accessory to Harvey Keitel's. Like it's like, so when I come in, they're almost just like, is he with him? Wait, who is it? That sort of thing.
Okay. And yeah, and when you arrive and you pull your chair up to and everything like that, Harvey Keitel goes and kind of looks, and he gives that kind of like, you know, that the perfect dose kind of symbol on his hand, and then but he's still like kind of munching away. And as soon as someone goes to speak up and say, what is, he just kind of stops and literally holds his hand right out to everybody. And, you know, with just as he's finishing that last little bit of food stuffed in his mouth, he's just be like, so I have a request, and I need to make sure that everybody follows this. Otherwise, I will be no help to you whatsoever. You cannot, and as he accentuates every word of this sentence, he's like banging his fist on the table, loudly shaking the plate and the cutlery. He said, like, you cannot ask me direct questions. And then he just kind of stops. He holds both hands out like some kind of like one of these auteur directors who's almost someone like framing a scene all the time. And then he's just be like, okay, so here we go. I know this feels a little weird. I know none of you know what's going on. And what am I doing here talking with Harvey Keitel when no one else can see Harvey Keitel in this restaurant? And that's when the four of you kind of stop and you go and you look around, and it's just be like, yeah, considering the fact that there's a celebrity sitting here, no one seems to be paying any attention whatsoever to the fact that you're, you know, that the famous actor is sitting in this restaurant. And but basically he then kind of like snaps everybody's attention back to himself. And he says, it's like, you've all been experiencing weird things, and I get that. You know, Case, you had that little incident with the car that was following you all the time and there wasn't a driver inside of it. Javier, you've been transforming into people and speaking languages that you could never speak before. Cheyenne, I don't even want to begin to imagine what it must be like to think that you're about to drown and find out you can't possibly drown. And Molly, your phone is not supposed to do that anymore.
Right?
It's just not possible. So the four of you, I'm sure, have a lot of questions. And I got some really good news for you. I got all the answers for you. But at the same time, too, I got to say, I also have none of the answers for you whatsoever. Does that make any sense to you? Good, because it's not supposed to. And at this point, you really start to think that there's a reason why you haven't seen Harvey Keitel in any movies lately. It's because he snapped.
I want to look over at the gentleman who sat on the chair at the booth rather than in the booth, who looks kind of quasi maybe with this dude. Are there any other cameras around? She'll say, pointing to, your camera bag or whatever, because this feels a lot like Candid Camera. Or whatever iteration is.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
So yeah, Harvey kind of, he sees this, and he kind of waits for a little bit and he continues with this, like, so I understand this is going to be a little weird. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of story. And it's a story that basically is kind of known as the God Wars. Okay. So all of you know, Zeus, Loki, like all those kind of guys before, right? And he kind of like waves his hand around the room, like now he's allowing all of you to speak.
No, like from Percy Jackson, The Avengers, like.
Is this a film pitch?
No. Just listen for a little bit. But yeah, you're right. Exactly. Like, like all those guys, big, powerful. And so did anyone ever kind of wonder where all that came from? Where did this thing about, these gods who exist, and where did all this kind of stuff come from? And how come we don't see anything like that anymore? So there was all these years ago, gods actually existed. There are gods that walk among us. Now, as you hear this, and it sounds like he starts to get into kind of like one of these tirades that you see someone on street corners getting into, what is everyone's initial reaction when you start to hear him get preachy about, once upon a time there used to be gods?
I roll.
I roll.
Yeah. Cheyenne's just like, oh my god, he's a crazy person.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm actually like I deal in this sort of stuff all the time. Like I went to college and stuff, so like I enjoy religious studies and conversations. So I'm interested in what he has to say. It doesn't necessarily mean I believe it or anything, but it's fun to talk about.
Okay, so you're a little bit more willing to give him the benefit of the doubt at this point compared to everybody else.
A little bit, apparently. I didn't think.
Okay.
I mean, as soon as people start talking about like theology and stuff, I don't just mean, oh God, there's another crazy person. You know,
Yeah. So Harvey starts talking, and he starts giving basically this story about the first mother, and starts talking about how basically at one point there was something that is known simply as the source that basically came down and imbued its energy, its essence into this person that is now known as the first mother. And from there, gods basically were given their powers and their abilities. And as time went on and the gods basically began to get greedy with their power and their influence, they wanted to find ways to be able to control the source, and starts getting into this grand elaborate history. And if we were watching this actually as a TV show, we'd be putting our CG animators to work as they actually create this sequence of events that happens, very kind of like Legend of Zelda style, because I just played that game recently. And then when he gets into everything with the first mother being locked up by the gods, and the rumblings and the god wars and everything else that happens, and then basically everything kind of comes back to where everything was. And then that's when the four of you come to this realization that you actually have become engrossed in this story, and we're actually visualizing it. So this kind of animation that the audience would have seen is what you four have actually been kind of seeing in your minds as Harvey Keitel has been talking to you. And as he kind of brings things back into the modern times and begins to describe how the source still remains, but the energy that it impasses onto others has become diffused. And so now we have these small pantheons that exist in the real world today. And there are gods that walk among us. And then he just like claps his hands and like rubs them together, because it's like he's just about to make this great revelation. It said like, and I've got some fantastic news for the four of you. You're all gods. And then he just kind of sits back and he like drops his fork on his plate. Like that's his big bombshell, and his story is done. And he sits back, literally waiting for the accolades to arrive. What do the four of you do at this point?
There's a slow blink going on with Cheyenne's face right now, as she's just like, did I just sit down with a street preacher person and listen to basically his 15-minute sales pitch?
That was some impressive fanfic, but can you tell me which asylum you escaped from?
So what is this? Like some sort of pyramid thing? Like we all get like worshippers to donate money. We kick it up to you. Like what's like how does that work? What's the deal?
I've been in a multi-level marketing thing. This isn't that.
And Harvey Keitel, he kind of lowers his head. He's so disappointed because he gave such a good performance in his eyes with this moment.
It was
And
a
then
good story.
yeah, and he does say to you, it's just be like, well, I was kind of hoping, that, I mean, I am an actor. And he actually seems to get really kind of upset that his performance didn't really cut the deal. And he says like, but, I get it. I understand that this sounds like something that's just, this is wild. I mean, like Harvey Keitel is sitting here in front of you and he's telling you all these things. And then all of a sudden that's when he just looks over at Molly and he's like, Molly, that's right. I totally forgot to give you your card. And then he's kind of got this sly little grin on his face because he just knows, like, oh, yes, you need to take this card. And he just kind of hands it over to you with two fingers.
I mean, she'll take it.
And as soon as Molly touches it and the four of you see this, the card turns a full shade of purple, and inside, the four of you are able to see the cosmos. But now that the four of you are seated together at this table, the card doesn't just flash of white light and then it just becomes a paper card again. It just continues like this. And in fact, it almost kind of gives almost like a radiant glow. And as the four of you do, it's almost like the four of you almost kind of feel compelled to reach and to touch this, because somehow in this card, you almost get the sense of, I've heard, so the way I like to explain this is that I have this theory that when you die, all the answers to life's great mysteries are presented in front of you. And for the four of you, those answers are literally within this card. And you almost feel compelled to touch it.
Hmm.
I mean, she hasn't dropped it. She's just kind of holding it like this and just staring at it.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, yeah. I mean, if we're compelled to, then I reach forward and I grab the cord.
All right. Case and Cheyenne.
Yeah, she really has no discipline to resist that at all. So as much as she wants to, she's still gonna touch it.
Yeah, it's just getting weirder. It's just getting weirder and weirder. Why would I stop now?
And then once all four of you actually touch the card, there's just a flash of purple light, and suddenly the five of you are basically standing at the end of like this kind of like raggedy dock that's alongside Lake Michigan. And there's like the wind's blowing in your hair. It's suddenly chilly out here, because like, you're suddenly out in like this open area, like, along the waterfront and everything like that. It is like shockingly realistic to you at this point. And you realize you actually are there, standing there at this dock with Harvey Keitel and these three strangers whose name you all know now. Like I understand Molly and Case, know each other from before, but all of a sudden, all of you know that's Javier, and that's Cheyenne, and that's Case, and that's Molly. Like there is this weird, strange connection that has linked the four of you suddenly. And Harvey Keitel knows this, and he starts to kind of laugh maniacally about it. And then he's just, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do this. I understand this could be a really big shock, but I'm just so happy to see the spark back together again and to see a new pantheon in Detroit. I'm just really, and he comes along and he just starts to hug each of you individually.
Personal space here.
Yeah, fist bump.
Yeah, and so he does, and he gives kind of like the fist bump, almost like, oh yes, that's right, that's what my grandkids do. And then
Just bring it in. It's fine. It's fine. Why not?
Yeah.
Like, the way this day's going, sure. Come here.
I would love to say this is like a bad flashback, but having never done drugs, damn it, this has got to be real, huh?
When do we get?
Recognize this doc? Sorry.
So well, let's go with Phil. You had a question. What were you going to say?
Yeah, Harvey. When do we get to start asking questions? Like, no offense, but the light show was good. However we got out to the dock is great, and the whole thing about us being gods is fantastic. But when can we ask some questions? Because I'm pretty sure I'm all full up on questions at this point.
Or is asking when can we ask questions too direct of a question?
Well, too late now, Javier. I'm asking at least that.
And as the two of you are coming up with these questions, and at first it's like he's got a finger up and he's about to say something to answer Case's question, and then he hears Javier's question, and then he's just like, "Oh, I was really hoping that you wouldn't do that," And then he just kind of shrugs his shoulders, and it's like he's actually speechless now. Like he's got nothing. He can't say anything to you. And then that's when he goes and he's reaching into his phone, and he actually goes and he starts to text somebody, and he's just sticks up a finger. It's just like, it just take a minute. Oh, I can get this taken care of. I was really afraid you guys were going to do this. Cheyenne, what was it that you wanted to do?
I recognize this doc.
Oh, yes, you most definitely recognize this dock.
Okay.
In fact, I would even go so far as to say is that you can actually see the lighthouse from here. So it's very close to like your personal beach.
Okay.
But yeah, you can see it from here, so you know
Okay.
exactly where you are. Yeah. So shortly after, Harvey closes up the phone, basically puts it back into his pocket and says, "So I have a backup plan for just such an occasion, and he'll be here momentarily." And then he just kind of stops talking, pulls out a cigarette and lights up, and he basically just kind of stops, and he's just having a smoke on the
Okay.
side of the
I
dock.
mean, if it's smoke break, then I take out my vape pen.
Oh, now I don't like your character.
Hey, I don't do it, but I feel like Javier would. So
So a couple minutes later, after this kind of awkwardness, and even then too, maybe there's like like several other questions that are like barraged at him. You see that somebody gets out of a car at the end of the dock, and somebody actually comes walking up, and it's a person, and they're fairly well dressed, and you realize that it's like this older woman, and she's very much dressed like a librarian. However you would picture that. And basically she kind of comes along and she's just like this, like this sweet little old woman who walks at maybe like 5'2" or something. And she comes along and she looks over at Harvey Keitel, and he goes and he puts the cigarette out, because right away she's giving him the stern look. And she's just like, like, "Harvey, is this them?" And she goes and she looks over towards the four of you with this very lovingly, almost kind of grandmother look. And he's just like, "Yep, this is them," and he's kind of replying back in this really kind of crass way. Just be like, "Yep, this is them," but they ask questions, and she's like, "Oh, I know, dear, I know," and basically kind of pats him on the shoulder and everything. And she just turns to the four of you and says, "I'm afraid Harvey is unable to answer direct questions under the circumstances because, well, he's the god of divine secrets. And unfortunately, he can't just reveal secrets if you ask him directly. It's just, unfortunately, it's just one of the things that it's just one of the burdens that comes with with his responsibilities. So Harvey's asked me to come here and basically answer the questions for you." And she goes and she looks over at Javier, and her eyes actually begin to kind of welt up with tears. And as she walks up towards Javier and basically, like, she drops down onto one knee and she said, "We have been waiting for your return, my prince."
okay.
And she basically kind of stands back up again and she introduces herself. And this is the name that popped into my head, and I'm rolling with it. So apparently we're doing pop culture references all night. She basically says, like, "I'm Laura Ingram. I work at the House of Records,
Uh,
and I have so many people who are just so eager to meet you."
but it's not actually Laura Ingram. It's just her
No,
name.
but that's the
Okay.
name that she's going with. In fact, I'm even going to say that she is actually named after that character.
Okay. Okay.
Because
Um,
otherwise she's getting pushed in the dock. Okay.
I was gonna say because I hate Laura Ingram. um,
It's fair, right? I'm with you.
yeah, exactly. Bam.
No, she's not nice.
Very nice to meet you, Laura. Like I say it just like that, like that sort of thing. I'm kind of going with it at this point because it could just be like an elaborate cosplay. And I'm not one of those people who just jumps into a LARP and just does this. You can't
Yeah.
do that. You have to go along with it while you're there. So
Now, when you look at Laura and you're kind of, like, reacting to all of this, you notice that she's wearing like a necklace that has a very unique looking symbol. What do you think a good symbol would be for the god of names?
I mean, I don't know. It seems like a Prince symbol would work.
Dude, I was actually just thinking. That'd be so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then let's do that. And that's the symbol that she's actually wearing around her neck. And when you see that, there is this something, it's almost like you've been seeing this like in your dreams, this symbol keeps appearing to you,
Mhm.
and now it's worn around this woman's neck.
Okay.
And so that's when she basically, she realizes that she has duties to attend to, and she stops and she looks around to everyone else, and she says, "Let me clarify. I am Laura Ingram, and I am a priest of the Church of Names,
Mm.
which is now the Church of Javier, if you could look at it as. Javier,
Okay.
you are the god of names."
Like he's the god of divine secrets.
Yes, that's
Got
right.
it. Got it.
Yes. And
Okay.
turns over towards Case and said, "Case, you are the god of cars." Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's right.
And
The god of cars.
Cheyenne. Oh my goodness, I actually forgot. Hold on, GM. Pause. I
Did
have
you
it written
forget
down.
what goddess she is?
Yes, I do. There we go. Okay. Cheyenne, you are the goddess of Lake Michigan. And she holds her hands out because Lake Michigan is right behind her. And turns over to Molly and says, "Molly, you are the goddess of online knowledge."
Oh,
Are we sure about this?
Oh, we are very sure.
I,
We have gone through extensive and elaborate tests to make sure of this.
I haven't really even finished setting up my laptop. My cousin has to do that for me. Cause yeah.
Does he?
um. Hmm.
She then looks at you and says, like, "Be a
She's
dear."
kind of thinking back.
Yeah. She says, like, "Be a dear, pull out your phone and tell me right now what's going on at the auto show."
I mean, I might have to bring up. And she pulls out her phone.
Okay. You know what? Let's make a dice roll of this and let's
Let's
see what
do
happens. I'm going
that.
to set this at just a simple difficulty 1. All right.
Okay. And this would
So,
be my Oracle.
yep, Oracle definitely sounds good. So that is, and then what skill do you want to put with that?
Um. Hmm.
I
I
meant to
mean,
bring a skill
perception,
list with me.
perception,
Perception.
perhaps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perception. Yeah, there we go. All right. So roll Oracle plus perception, please.
All right. That's actually a decent number. And 7 and 8.
All right, so that's 2 successes you have. So for those of you playing at home who are learning this game for the first time, wondering what the hell's going on, every time that somebody goes to roll dice, they basically take the number of points that they have associated with their manifestation and/or skill, whichever applies to the roll, and basically that's the number of d10s that they roll. Anything that is a 7 and up is considered a success. A 10 is considered 2 successes. Anything less than that is considered a fail. So in this case, Molly has rolled 2 successes. So you go and you pop open your phone, and I keep saying pop open because I picture it as a flip phone, but I know we talked about it being something a little more modern.
It's
Yeah.
probably like an iPhone 4.
Yeah. Something like
Yes.
that. I mean, she actually has a flip phone for phone calls. She specifically uses her smartphone for just the apps that she like needs for work and stuff. So it's not like she can't learn. It's just that she's got to separate the two. She usually uses her flip phones for calls.
Yes. Okay.
So
So the first thing that happens when Molly pulls out her phone is right away there's like no bars on this, like you're barely getting any 3G for whatever the reason is, and once again because it's an older phone, it actually starts to break down after a while. But then suddenly that's when the Siri pops up on your phone and says, "Okay, I will look up information on the Detroit Auto Show." And then suddenly there's like these different options that pop up and you actually see that there is a fire alarm was actually pulled at the auto show, and it has since been evacuated.
and I
Yeah,
share this information.
And then as you do, because you roll 2 successes, I'm going to add a little bit more onto that. That's
Alright.
also when suddenly your phone pops up and there's like a live security feed from the show that actually shows like all these cars being doused with water.
Oh,
And then
wow.
that's when you realize it's just be like, I didn't even touch my, and none of you saw her actually touch her phone. This
How
just
did it pull
happened.
it out?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna have to process this.
and Laura basically comes along and she kind of pats you in the cheek very grandmotherly. She's like, of course you do, your dear. You take all the time that you need on this one. And she turns over to the 3 of you and she says, like, are there any other questions?
God of cars. Like, what does that even mean?
Well, she then goes and she pulls out her car keys that she's got in her pocket. And she takes them and then she throws them into the river. She throws them into Lake Michigan. And she's just like, be a dear, would you bring my car up, please?
She
Okay.
actually moves over to Cheyenne for a second and whispers, "Can you get her keys?"
I might be able to. Yeah, I think.
I've seen like all the Marvel movies. So like I turn around and I turn around and face the car and I'm like, car, come here.
And let's just go with this. At first, it definitely doesn't work. And there's this kind of almost buildup of music, and just like, da, da, and then nothing happens.
All
But
right, come on,
Laura
car.
basically says it's like, like, oh, you can do it, dear. You can do it. Just concentrate. Just focus.
Going with the force. Come on, car.
So, what manifestation is Case going to be using to try and do this? This sounds like a puppetry thing. So,
Yeah, this is definitely puppetry, right?
yeah, all right. And then what skill do you want to put with that?
Travel.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. So, puppetry plus travel. Give me a roll for that.
Okay, I got a bunch of dice here. Hang on. All right. 2. So 2 successes and 1-1.
Okay,
Norm-
that's fine because as long as you got 1 success, you're still good.
Yep.
So, sure enough, when you go, and it takes a little bit, and it's like, you're really trying to focus, and you're even doing like the hand thing for whatever reason. It's almost like you're trying to like grab the car and just pull it over. And it just doesn't seem to work at first. And as soon as you kind of put your hands down and you're about to just like shrug it off, the car at the far end of the dock that Laura got out of starts.
No.
And then as you kind of look and you just kind of, you're just all of a sudden kind of have this, like your body stance almost kind of changes a little bit. And it's like your hand is almost like grabbing a steering wheel. And we look down and we see that your right foot kind of lifts itself up a little bit. And then you go and you press down and we actually start to see the car move oh so slowly as Case is like ghost driving it down the dock. And then eventually the car goes and pulls up and it stops and it's right next to Laura, who basically just kind of gives you this, big kind of smile on her face. She's so proud. But then she goes and she looks over and says, like, but unfortunately, I can't have Case drive me all the way home. So, Cheyenne, would you be a dear? Would you go get my keys?
Sure. I can try to go get your keys.
All right. So, how do you want to do this? Do you want to try and jump because you can swim and that's not the issue. But did you want to try something else?
Let's see here. I have beckon as one of my manifestations.
Okay, beckon actually would work.
So I was thinking of trying to use that as a way to manipulate, because I mean, essentially she thinks she can hold her breath for a really long time at this point. So, ooh, hey, kitten. But yeah, she's gonna try to use that first.
Okay. So when you're doing that, are you trying to actually have the keys come back up to the surface, or how exactly are you doing it then with beckon?
So they said that she's the goddess of Lake Michigan, so she's gonna ask the lake to bring her the keys back.
Okay, nice. And then what skill? It's almost kind of sounding like perception would apply in order to be able to find the keys, and then beckon is what you're actually using to bring it forth. But if
Yeah.
there's another skill you'd like to use, I'm game with that.
Either perception or intuition. Like those are the only two that I could think of that would be applied.
Well,
Yeah.
I would also say that if you're specifically saying like you're asking the lake to give it to you, you could technically use an influence on that.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
an
I like that.
empathy, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm good. I'm good with whatever Cheyenne wants to do.
Um.
I want you to make the best roll possible.
So then perception would be higher than her influence. So
Okay, so let's go with perception. Searching the water, and then like actually telling the lake is like, would you bring me the keys, please?
all right. I have 3 successes.
Oh, very nice. So it doesn't take long. Where basically Cheyenne goes and is standing at the end of the dock. And is this something where does Cheyenne just kind of try and go into a meditative trance, or do you say anything out loud? What does it look like to everyone else on the dock?
She's actually going to sit on the edge of the dock and take her shoes and socks off and put her feet in the water.
Nice. I like that. So making physical contact with the water. And then as this happens, there's kind of a little bit of a pause, and everyone else, including Harvey Keitel, are just kind of, leaning over the edge of the dock and just looking in the water. And then all of a sudden, there's just this fish just kind of swims up towards the surface, and he just kind of stops and is actually just kind of looking up at Cheyenne for a little bit, and then goes back down into the water. And then that's when we actually see a piece of driftwood that actually kind of comes up out of the water, and on the piece of driftwood are Laura's keys.
Wow.
Okay, yeah, she reaches down and picks them up.
And then Laura is just she gives this, this little old lady kind of applause, and she just be like, oh, that was magnificent. I love seeing gods use their abilities. And then she turns and she looks over at Javier, and she says, yours is a little trickier to prove, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what, yeah. Yeah. And there
That's
is
my
kind of this
actual
awkward
response,
kind of
yeah.
yeah, aren't you supposed to tell me how to do it?
Exactly. I'm like, I'm waiting for the
what do you
instruction
need?
here.
Whose name do you need? What's going on? And then that's when she'd just be like, well, I think we should go with just the simplest. What's my name again?
Okay. Well, I mean, I know it. It's Laura.
What's my full name? Now I want you to make a roll for this.
Okay.
So what is it that you're going to roll? What's the manifestation that you're going to use? And then what's the skill that's going to help you out with this?
Well, it's Oracle for that.
Totally.
And then probably Intuition.
Okay.
Between those two. And I got 1, 2, 3. 3. 3.
3. Oh, very nice. You go and you say your name at first. You just say your first name, which is well, it's Laura. And she goes, mm-hmm. And you go, Laura Ingram. And she goes, go on. And then you actually say her full name, Laura Melissa Ingram.
Mm.
And then it's all of a sudden at this point, you start to cite off who her parents were, who her grandparents were, and then who her great grandparents were.
Mm.
And then it's all of a sudden you just kind of stop with this. And then that's when you suddenly have this intuit knowledge of like her family's history and where they came from.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like you at this moment are almost able to do kind of like a genealogy kind of thing with it.
Yeah, I'm Ancestry.com. I'm the god of Ancestry.com.
Literally at this point. And you just have like this vast amount of information about her family history that you are just almost sudden start spitting out. Is just be like, oh my god, I know this. And it's like, your family's actually from Germany originally and everything else like this. And then that's when you kind of you get into that kind of like that kind of work trance that you get into normally with photography, but it's like you're just diving headfirst into this history lesson, and that's when you suddenly kind of come to this stop, and then once again, like her eyes are very weepy and everything like this. And that's when she bows her head before you and she says, and that is why I follow you, my lord.
I'm not. Javier's not laughing. I'm laughing.
Yeah.
Javier's more like dumbfounded. Like he's kind of in like, ooh, that's weird kind of reaction.
Can I ask somebody a direct question? And she kind of, just rolls her eyes at Harvey. And she looks at Laura.
Yes, of course. Oh, but by all means, please ask me. Otherwise, Harvey will he'll just go completely silent.
She pauses for just a second, glances back at Laura and says, "What's the catch?"
Catch? What catch?
Oh, you're so sweet. Don't stop now. Nothing's for free.
Well, there is the fact that you are actually now responsible for representing the dominion upon which you've been inherited with the spark that's actually come to you from the older gods from before. And in certain cases, you're actually going to have worshippers and followers, and you're going to have responsibilities that you're going to have to keep up with. But at the same time, too, your powers are not so great that you're actually these omnipotent beings. So you're going to have to be able to do so while not actually, alerting other mortals in your life, because if you let them know, bad things are going to happen to them. But other than that, everything's going to be fine.
Okay, 1, that's impressive. 2, you said a lot of words that don't mean what I think they mean, at least in this context. Spark, who were these old gods? Why are they no longer the current gods?
And there's one part where Harvey Keitel is like really enthusiastic and he wants to chime in with something like this. And then you ask a question and he's like this, and he just like kind of shakes his fist and everything. And he just turns back and he lights another cigarette while Laura answers for him.
Well, he was being kind of a jerk anyway, so.
I mean, he did kind of tell us the story that the old gods are no longer around because a lot of them murdered each other.
Okay, but
There's that as well.
It was like Zeus level stuff. Like, what about like the former recent gods?
She looks to me like she says she's a priest of this church of yours. She doesn't look like she's Zeus old, okay?
Yes. Oh, thank you, dear. I do appreciate that. I do try and keep myself looking my age at the very least. Well, that is actually kind of the predicament that puts us in here. You see, there used to be a pantheon with the god of names. And she says it, and she's very somber when she says it. And there used to be another goddess of Lake Michigan. And there used to be a goddess of online knowledge. And there used to be a goddess of cars. But something has happened to them, and they have lost their spark. But their spark has come to you for some reason. We don't know what happened to the old gods, but we know that they've gone missing, and if they've lost their spark, the prognosis is not good. In many cases, gods die when they lose their spark. So I'm afraid we're at a bit of a loss as to why you're here and why your spark has come to you. we were hoping, and she turns and she looks over towards Harvey Keitel, it's almost kind of like these reassurances, in what she's saying is correct. So we were kind of hoping that you could find out what happened to them so that we could have a proper record of their history. If you don't mind. And she kind of, kind of twitches her shoulders over a little bit to just be like, I hope it's not a terrible inconvenience. Very much like you would see an old lady in a grocery store, to me at least, because I'm like 6'1", say like, could you reach that item on the top shelf for me, please?
Yeah, old
But
ladies don't have
instead,
to do
she's
that.
basically saying, something happened to the four gods. You've inherited their spark, and we were hoping that you could let us know. And then she kind of turns over towards Harvey Keitel, and and he nods his head and everything like that, and then he just flicks his smoke into Lake Michigan. And then as soon as it touches the water, he just kind of like, oh shit, and looks over at Cheyenne and is like, I'm sorry, I could go get that if you want me
Yeah,
to.
go get that, please.
Oh, okay. And then he just kind of starts to kind of fumble along and try and he like lies down on his stomach on the dock and he's trying to reach to grab it, but now the waves are kind of, like blowing it under the dock. And so he's spending a good chunk of this scene trying to get the cigarette out of the water.
So what was the name of the god who had this spark before me?
I mean, don't you know?
I'm asking Todd.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Now, for this, yes, and I thought about actually coming up with the names and everything in particular myself, but I thought it would be cool if, and sorry, I want to kind of hit a bit of a pause button on this one. Case, I just realized in my notes, we had talked about during character creation that Henry Ford would be the previous god of cars.
No, I think we said Henry Ford was like the first
Like
god
the
of
first
car.
one.
The first god of cars. Okay,
Yeah.
so then things would have descended from. Okay, so in that case, then, and if for whatever reason anyone wants to change from god to goddess or reverse, vice versa, or something like that, by all means, let me know. I just kind of whip them up. But I was thinking that the four of you could actually come up with the names for the previous gods. So, Eloy, what would you like to be the name of the previous god of names?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me think about this real quick. I'm gonna go with Chance Howard.
That is a hell of a good name, and it seems only appropriate.
He's a really great like funk gospel player. So
Sorry, I was just thinking of something from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Is just be like, oh, the last name is Danger, and then when he walks in, it's just like, no, it's Dunger, actually.
it's Dunger. Love it.
I do like that show.
Yeah, well, I'm just getting into that show. I'm going nuts over it. Carol, what is the name of the previous goddess of online knowledge?
Elena Cornaro.
Can you say the last name again?
Cornaro, Cornaro.
Nice. All right. Crystal, what's the name of the previous goddess of Lake Michigan?
We are going to go with Judith Montoya. Judith, yep.
Sorry, Judith? And the last name again?
Montoya.
Montoya. Nice. And then Phil, what is the name of the previous goddess of cars?
Eliza Knapp.
With a K?
Yep.
Nice. Apparently, I just sounded like I'm a fan of Silent K's for a second there. I don't know why I said that. Silent K, nice. Actually, you know what, Javier?
Okay.
Let's say Javier says that. Silent K, nice.
Well, and honestly, like, and I was almost thinking, like, unless you guys asked me what the names of your previous gods were, I'm probably going, all right, what's the name of my previous god? Cool. I'm going to look him up now. Because now I have to figure out what happened, because that's the conversation happening, right? Is like, what happened to the old gods? Well, I'm gonna focus on mine first, obviously. So but yeah, you guys didn't say,
and
like,
that's when Laura actually.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was going to say that's actually once Laura says the four names of the previous gods, that's when she turns over to you, Javier, and said, like, "Did you get that, dear?"
Oh, of course.
Now, once you have heard those names, as the god of names, what information can you find out about that right away? What like when you know somebody's name?
Mm-hmm.
So what can you discern from that? You know, like, do you want to roll to see if instantaneously what information you get from those names?
Yeah. Let's see.
All right.
Let me see. So let's say maybe an oracle in knowledge.
Yep. Sounds good.
Uh, 3. Nice.
There we go. Oh yes, and I'm going to make that a difficulty 1. So you only needed 1 success to
Okay.
make that happen. So yeah, right away, as soon as you hear the names. Now, as soon as you hear the name Chance Howard,
Mm-hmm.
when is a time in Javier's past when he actually interacted with Chance Howard?
Oh. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna use the actual Chance Howard, and I'm gonna say that he was playing in a funk band in town, and I was photographing a bar crawl that was going from like bar to bar, and he was performing at one of them, and it plays really really good, funk music.
Okay. So yeah, and though you say that, I said, like, I actually saw Chance Howard, and you described the performance, and you're actually kind of like, rambling out loud.
Mm-hmm.
What is the last thing that you heard about Chance Howard before his mysterious disappearance? So obviously he's some form of celebrity, even on a local level.
Yeah. That he was actually gonna go on tour with his band called the Funk Soldiers.
Gotcha. So things were looking really good for Chance's career, and now all of a sudden, poof, gone.
Yeah.
Okay. When it comes to Elena Cornaro, the goddess of online knowledge, first of all, Carol, the name itself might not necessarily mean anything to your character, but because of what Javier rolled, he starts to kind of give a description of Elena. Who was Elena previously?
Well, she was actually someone who was worked for the library system, not as a librarian at any single library, but especially in the more marginalized areas. She was trying to get more computers, more tech into the libraries, so that the kids who were local to around there would have a better footing technologically in school.
Okay. So the name necessarily doesn't really kind of strike you at first, but then once Javier actually starts to, talk about Elena and, the fact that, that work that she had done at the library and everything like that, that's when you actually begin to recall, oh my goodness, I actually know her and stuff like this. And what was your history like? How did you cross paths with Elena in the past?
Well, there's not a whole lot of money for that kind of stuff, so she had to organize a lot of volunteers, a lot of late hours after the library closed, a lot of delivered food, and possibly lifts home.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
once in a while we would cross paths.
Okay. Nothing that you would have thought would have made her want to like pass on your spark.
No,
But
but conversation can happen, and she thought it was a very cool thing. It's not like she had a whole lot of that growing up.
okay. Now, because Javier only rolled 3 successes, I'm going to leave information on either the goddess of Lake Michigan or the goddess of cars a mystery at this point. So here's what I want Phil and Crystal to do. I want you to basically make an initiative roll. No, just roll a d10. Let's not do the initiative bonus. That's actually biased. So just roll a d10.
I was
Yeah.
actually going to say that since Crystal since we had kind of decided that like the goddess of Lake Michigan is like the de facto kind of leader of the gods of Detroit, that would be the more interesting one for us to not know. Because it would be the leader.
You good with that, Crystal?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. So we'll leave her a bit of a blank at this point.
I know everybody loves like rolling and stuff, but it makes more sense for us if we're gonna not know one of them. It should be the one that there's a lot more information there. We should know
Gotcha.
all of like the whatever characters, but the
All
big
right.
one should remain a mystery. I think.
Okay.
I know who Mrs. Knapp is.
Exactly.
Oh, and who is Mrs. Knapp?
She was my driver ed teacher.
Oh,
That is great.
nice.
I had her for driver's ed, 4 years ago in the summer.
Was the car that was following you around her car?
No, it was just one I liked.
Okay.
I was just like the one that was following me around was just one I liked, and I kept puppeting it around behind me without knowing what I was doing. No, I took driver's ed for the summer, and Mrs. Knapp was our instructor. I didn't think she particularly liked me, but I don't know. It's weird, but here we are. I'm the god of cars now.
What is the last thing that you heard about Mrs. Knapp?
She took a sabbatical from school. Like she stopped teaching, and I don't know why. But like I had friends who were young. One of my friends' siblings was going to take driver's ed, and I was starting to make jokes about Mrs. Knapp, and they were like, "Oh no, it's a new person now."
Okay. All right. Nice. So this is the information that Javier is able to give everybody as a result, with and the realization, with the exception of Cheyenne, who basically is just like, I don't know a Judith Montoya. Like that name alone is not ringing a bell, and the information that Javier is able to glean is not connecting to you in any way, shape, or form. But for the other three, it's almost just like, oh yeah, I know that person. They were like somehow connected in your life. So it's at this point where this is all kind of happening and everything like that. And Harvey Keitel just kind of basically walks in, kind of almost like rudely steps in front of Laura, which is his tendency to do, and basically says like, okay, great. So everyone's got all the information they need. My job here is done. Laura, you've got to get yourself back to work. And I'm going to let the four of you, and he almost just kind of gives like that little finger pistol kind of like, yeah, bam, 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 like to the four of you, and just be like, and I'm going to leave the four of you to kind of figure out what happened to the old gods. If anybody needs me, I'll be around. And then he just kind of walks down the dock. It's like everything he tried to do is almost like this big wrap up to his scene, and then he just kind of stops and he stands there, and then he just turns around and he walks. Everything about this guy is really awkward. So that is our first scene. We are actually looking at about 10:33, so we're getting at a good point where we can kind of, start wrapping up our session and everything like this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this would be a really good time to maybe even kind of have the four of you, while you're still there on the dock, we could even keep the scene going to just be like, kind of get to know each other, figure out a plan of where you're going to go next or anything else like this, or if there's any other specific ideas on what the four of you want to do. I'm open to them. Where do you want to go from here? Because this is literally one of these moments where you've just been thrusted with like this major revelation that you did not expect when you woke up this morning. And now here you are. Apparently you are gods of these kind of obscure sounding dominions. And you have to go and find these people who used to be the previous gods using these abilities that you don't completely understand. And it was all told to you by Harvey Keitel and this sweet little librarian.
Does anybody else want to go get a bite to eat and, I don't know, get to know each other?
If it involves bourbon, I'm definitely down.
Well, I don't know much about drinking, but sure.
Wait, how old are you?
20.
Okay. How about that cafe we were just at?
I was thinking something not where Harvey or anybody else. I don't know. I sure, whatever. We can go to we can go back to that.
There's some places on campus.
Actually, no, where are we? Should we look at the map, or does that matter?
Oh yeah, that's right. The territory grid. So I do have one.
This is where that might come in handy, where I don't spend as much time.
Yes. Alrighty then. So let me just do a little screen sharing here.
Yeah, because that means that we're all the way down at the bottom left, if I recall.
Yes. All right. So let me kind of do. So let me see. I put let's see, Cheyenne's is down over. Where did
There
I
it
put
is.
I think I'm right over here.
10? 110? 10-1?
Yeah, let me check my notes.
She was 210.
Or 210.
Yeah, she was 210 was her
Oh
beat.
yes, that's right. Because yes, that's right. You actually share a landmark with the previous goddess of Lake Michigan. That's why it looks like that. Okay, yes. So that's where you guys are. You are at 210. I'm just going to circle my little icon down there. Now, I'm going to roll here to see exactly where you came from, where the auto show took place. It was at 6-7. So that's going to be a fair bit. That's going to take a little bit of travel to get over towards there.
That's if we wanted to go back over there.
I was gonna say I got this, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, I mean, like, how would you get back to the diner?
I can get us a car, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna stand, I'm gonna walk off the dock and, towards the street and my hands up again and.
While he's Jediing us a car, I'm going to call Elliot or text. Actually, I'm going to text him and ask him if he's okay, since there was a fire alarm pulled and he had a booth there and he is my cousin. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, Elliot's fine. And even then, Sue, he tells you that the fire department arrived and everything like that. And, everything seems to be under control and they're going to start letting everybody back in soon. They're just walking a perimeter to make sure that there is no fire.
And before I leave the dock area, I'm going to check to make sure that the cigarette butt was fished out of the water.
Sorry, say that again?
Before I leave the dock, I want to make sure that the cigarette butt was fished out of the water.
No, it wasn't. But you know exactly where it is. And it's like as Case is going along and you're like and trying to pick out the right car and everything like that, you start walking along the shore and there are various other bits of garbage and whatnot like that, but you actually start to look and you find the exact cigarette that Harvey Keitel flicked into the water.
All right. As we're waiting, I'm just going to spend some time cleaning up the beach and getting that cigarette butt out of the water.
Gotcha. So, Case, how are you going to get everybody a car?
Well, I was just told I was like the god of cars. I've had a bunch of weird car things happen, so I'm just gonna kind of imagine the car that we need, which is there's 4 of us, so I'd like to just get us an SUV.
So that sounds like you're trying to beckon a car.
I believe that I am.
Alrighty then. So it sounds like beckon and perception. Like as you're kind of. Oh, excuse me. If you're kind of, feeling around and looking for, the right car that's going to fit the 4 of you comfortably, but at the same time too has the kind of kick that you like when you drive.
Yeah, I can do that.
All right, beckon plus perception, please.
And wah wah wah.
And I'm gonna say difficulty 1 on this. Let's not make it too difficult.
Yeah, nope.
Oh
wait, is that no, that's a 3.
Okay. Did you roll any 1s?
Nope.
Okay. Whew. There we go. Because that would be embarrassing.
Yeah. No.
So
car. comes up and it comes up and it goes down the dock and then it keeps going.
And it just drives right into the lake. I don't know how to stop it.
So
you,
initially,
you thought a cigarette butt was bad, Crystal.
yeah.
Was.
So I'm going to do something that's a little bit more for comedic effect on here. So basically, it's at this point you're there, you're kind of at the end of the dock, and there's a few other cars, but it's like because they're for people that are either kind of like working along the docks, or whatever. It's either the cars are too small, or there's some hatchbacks, or pickup trucks. I mean, someone would have to sit back in the in the back of the truck, and it's not quite right. And you just kind of look over to everybody and it's just like, I got nothing, there's nothing here that's going to work. And then right behind Case, a cab pulls up and actually lets somebody out. And then basically the cab's, like unoccupied light, basically just kind of comes on, and there's now this available cab that's right behind Case.
Yeah, there we go.
Do you take credit for doing that, Case?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
So
Can't
yeah,
seem to get this thing working yet.
Yeah. So basically, it's going to require a cab ride. It's not enough to really kind of spend. Well, everyone's got enough to basically, kind of split a cab. But to move back to the diner, I'm definitely going to say that it's going to cost free time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one?
Yeah, just one's good.
Okay.
Because it's one of those things. Conversation can also still happen in the cab, and that kind of thing. So it's like, to me, only one is only necessary for this. All right, now what is it that the four of you want to do when you're on the cab ride there, when you get to the diner and everything else like this? What is it that what do you want to do? What's the plan of attack here?
Does anyone else just think all of this is like bonkers? Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's bonkers, but that doesn't make it any less real.
Right. So we've all had the same experience tonight, right? Like we're all.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that I didn't take any hallucinogens today. So.
It explains a few things, that's for sure.
I'm wondering if I'm stressing out about finals or something, which aren't for a couple of months. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think this is just what it is. Like,
We should probably exchange numbers, except I'm really frightened to look at my phone and find out that I just happen to have all your numbers in my contacts. How do I have all your numbers in my contacts?
Actually, if you do go and check your phone right now, you do see that there are 3 new contacts that have been added to your phone.
Damn it. I mean, this is just weird.
No, that makes sense though.
Yeah.
And there's even a part where, like when the waitress comes up and, like takes your order for coffee or whatever it is that you're going to have.
Coffee.
Javier, you go and you say, like, thank you, Carolyn. But the rest of you see that she's actually wearing a different name tag altogether. And she's almost kind of startled in a sense. And then she goes and she just kind of walks away, like a little bit kind of disturbed at the fact that you actually know her real name.
Exactly.
She wears a fake name tag at work.
A lot of waitresses do, actually.
Yes. And you know what? It's something that I encourage all people to do at their jobs, because no employee should have to wear a name tag. It's nobody's business. But that's my personal problem. So yeah, so the 4 of you are there. So it's like, how do you want to kind of go about things with this? Like,
Well,
is this something that the 4 of you are just like, yeah, we totally need to find out what happened to the old gods, or it's just like, so we're all just gonna kind of take the take the red pill and not go down this rabbit hole, right? We're all just gonna go back to our lives.
okay, so again, I've seen a lot of Marvel movies, so I think I know what to do here, right? Like, I think like the first thing, if we're gonna go looking for gods, like I think the first thing we need to figure out is like, how do we use our powers? Like, we must have some powers, right? Like, I think we need to spend a little time figuring that out. so that we'll be of like some sort of use.
So a training
To-
montage of some sort.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, right? Like that's like every superhero movie. Like we need to have some sort of we just found out we're lower my voice and like duck my head down. Like just found out we're gods. Like we had better figure out how to do like god things.
I mean, we still had to catch a cab here. So I'm thinking so he pats his head. It's okay. But we're like more like godless, right? I mean, I can know stuff that's online and I don't have to touch a button. It's not exactly world shattering power. My big question is why did they disappear, and is what they is why they disappeared, could that make us disappear?
Well, yeah. All the more reason we should figure out how to do stuff, right? Like
No, I agree with that.
yeah.
I'm also a little concerned about if something came after them, is it now going to come after us because we've got this spark whatever?
Uh-huh.
That's legitimate.
Which means we should also probably try to stick together.
I don't exactly have a set schedule, and neither do you.
Nope.
I have classes in the morning. I don't know how this is going to work.
We should definitely make sure everyone has everyone else's phone number, not just me.
That's a good start.
We should stay in touch, maybe check in with each other. Ooh, like a group messenger chat thingy. Are you on the Facebook?
The Facebook? Yes. I am on the Book of Faces.
Look, honey, I just know my apps, and I don't have all that. Wait a minute, Todd. Do I have like pretty much any app that crosses my mind on my phone?
I don't see why not. It only seems to make sense. Do
I mean,
you need Facebook on your phone?
She does apparently now.
Then yeah, and it's at this point where you look at your phone and it's already gone to the app store and it's showing you exactly where you can get it. There's not even a price. It looks like you can just get it.
She puts her phone down on the table and drinks some more coffee.
Well, Molly, I think the first thing that we need to do, I guess, the first thing that would help, can you check on your phone? Can you find obituaries for any of the old gods?
Yeah, I'll look. I mean, so all the newspapers have websites. Sometimes the obituaries are their own thing. A lot of them are behind paywalls, but I'm assuming paywalls don't stop her.
No, I don't see why they would. I mean,
No.
like they could be a factor, so if you roll, poorly, something like that could be the problem.
Right.
But as a general rule of thumb, I think it's safe to say is like, you should be able to easily overcome them.
Okay, so
Say you said your phone creates magical apps, so it would just make up a new obituary app for you.
I don't
right?
I don't know if it creates apps. I just know that if there is an app and it's useful, it's there without me, having to go search for it. I don't want it to be like any apps that don't exist. I don't think it should be that powerful, but
Yeah. I have been thinking about this, about ways that your abilities would actually kind of manifest. And one of the ways that I thought about it is like, it's one thing to be able to search and find anything you want. It's another thing to get in the exact perfect search term for exactly what it is you're looking for.
right.
And I almost kind of look at that as if like when you search, you just put in like the exact perfect search keywords that you need,
Right, you're
and
the goddess
even,
of SEO.
yeah. And for some reason, even as you're typing, you start to put in like a couple of exceptions. It's almost as if like, you actually start putting in like this code,
Okay.
like while you're doing it. So it's like that's how I look at it. You're able to come up with the perfect search function.
I can definitely see that.
Okay.
Should I roll Oracle and Perception again?
I'd almost say Oracle and knowledge in this case because you're looking for some like existing information.
Okay. Oh, nice. 9, 10, 8.
Oh,
That's
so that's
4.
going to be 4 successes.
Nice.
There we go. Now, did you want to take some of those successes and put them into the Pantheon pool? So
I
right now, everyone has 1 because Phil got the very obscure Firestarter reference from our character creation session.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, like, did you want to add any of those successes into the Pantheon pool?
Yeah, I'd like to drop 1 in there.
1 in there. Okay, so that gives you 3 successes. So that does technically mean then you're not getting a boost. But yeah, like still 3 successes is still going to be enough to get you some
I don't
information that's going to be
need to
helpful.
find all of them in the morgue in a row. So yeah.
Okay. You do not find any obituaries listed for the 4 old gods, but what you do find is sorry, just let me kind of get back to my notes here. You do actually find a story about a building collapse, and in the article with the list of some of the the fact that there are some people who are missing, some people who are believed to be inside, and of course, as you kind of read some of this out loud, everybody has heard that there was a partial building collapse that actually happened on the other end of town, kind of like on the other end of the city, like a couple of months ago, roughly just before each of you started to have these experiences. One of the people listed in this article as missing is Chance Howard, local musician.
Mm.
So you don't find an obituary, but you see a reference to that building collapse being where Chance Howard lived.
Oh, well, and she shares this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a building collapse that was basically, it was even national news for a period of time, because nobody to this point that anyone has heard of has, there's nobody knows why the building collapsed. It was the middle of the day where not as many people were home. There were some fatalities, and there were some unidentified bodies that were found inside the rubble. But there is no update that has been posted online. It's kind of like it was a story that was a big tragedy, but
Right.
then once the dust settled, everyone kind of moved on with things.
The
And
cycle.
there's just a few kind of like local updates and everything like that.
Well, and that was the main reason I wanted to check, because if the gods died and people know that they died and they've been mourned and all of that stuff, that's one thing. But if they're missing, that's an entirely different thing.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Cheyenne, this is something where it's like, being, the journalist that you are and everything like this, would you have possibly like, any contacts or any kind of leads or something like that that you would be able to look into, like amongst other journalists or some kind of thing like that?
Yeah, I would think that she probably has some like a mentor within the journalism profession that she's been working with through school.
Okay. All right. So that's an avenue that could be looked at to basically kind of, dig into this story a little bit further. That's
You
one
said
way
it
to
was
go.
months ago. It was 2 months ago?
But yeah, about a couple of months ago.
Okay.
A little bit before each of you started to, experience your new dominions, or your first dominions.
Yeah, it was more like, because I was thinking, since I have connections with the hospital, I might have tried to go and see if there was a body or whatever. But if it's months later, there's not going to like be a body there.
Well, if there are still some unidentified, unclaimed.
But for 2 months, though, they're not going to just sit there for months. They're going to do something with that before then.
There would still be records, right, of where they put them, like a unmarked, or some graveyard.
Yeah, but depending upon how many unnamed people, like it would be very like without a body there, it would be really hard. I
Yeah.
think to be able to tell. Like I wouldn't be able to see like a bunch of different John Does in the file and be able to pick out which one is mine. I don't think, because I don't think that technically falls under. Maybe it falls under names. I could look at a bunch of files and say which one belongs to this name.
Well,
I could technically do that.
if you could get a waitress's real name off of a fake tag, I'm thinking maybe. Yeah.
Well, I think
Would
that's
you be
more
able to look at names of missing peoples and theoretically be able to tell if they're alive or not?
probably,
Okay.
maybe.
So that once again, kind of getting into the records, more details about the building
Yeah.
collapse itself.
I mean, like I
Okay.
said, I have access to the hospital, and
Yeah.
people won't really ask questions while I'm there because they're used to seeing me there. I'm not an employee, so I don't have like unfettered access to like everything. But I could probably hit up the records room or something.
Cheyenne,
I could
could
slip
your
in
con-
there.
Cheyenne, could your contact maybe have notes that weren't put in the story, like specific possible people or family members that didn't get quoted or followed up with?
It might depend on what agency had written the story. If it was my mentor that worked on it or not, I don't know.
Or if they know who, maybe.
I could ask.
I feel like knowing if Mrs. Knapp's, like, what happened to her driver's ed company as well. Like, what's going on with that? Does somebody else take it up, or is it just closed down right now?
She was a teacher at the school, right? Right, Case?
Yeah, she was a teacher at school. She did.
Oh, it was school. I thought it
Yeah.
was like a driver's ed. Like
No. She did driver's ed. As the summertime.
Okay, because you can
school.
take like individual courses for that. I thought it was that. No, you're saying at school. Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, like, is there something that maybe Case, because like I said, I mean, having this kind of knowledge now that not only was Mrs. Knapp like the goddess of cars who passed her spark onto you, but now potentially may have been one of the victims in that building collapse. How does Case feel about that? How does Case feel about that?
Yeah, I mean it's like everything else today, right? It's straight up weird. It's weird. It's straight up weird, and I don't know. Like I mean, I guess I still I know people in the neighborhood. There's probably some way to kind of find out if anyone heard why Mrs. Knapp left school. Like I could try asking around.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like that there's a couple of avenues to go. So we're hitting our 11 o'clock mark.
Mhm.
So, wow.
Well, what I was gonna so mine is a location bond, so I actually have to go there to utilize it.
Yes.
If you have group or individual bonds, then you can ask them to go do stuff for you.
Yes.
So there's that as well.
Yes. Okay. So if there's anything that's going to happen at the hospital, Javier is going to have to actually go in order to make use of it. That's true. It also sounds too like Cheyenne, you've got a few things that you could look into basically with your mentor, trying to get more information on, like maybe unpublished information that's in the story.
Yep.
Case, it sounds like basically just kind of going around and asking, about Mrs. Knapp.
Mm-hmm.
And try and figure out if anyone knows what happened to her and kind of retrace, from, when she apparently took this sabbatical and on. And then Molly, what is it you want to do? I mean, in a sense, it almost kind of seems like, everything you need to do is literally in your pocket.
Well, I would like to kind of focus on, I mean, it's really important to find out what happened to them, but I kind of want to dig into, I guess, what their online lives were before, if I could find anything where they might have crossed paths that would lead to common information about all four of them.
So you want to find what connects them.
Yeah, so
Yeah, okay.
that will take some time, though, because I don't really know anything much about the others, and I only know a little bit about Elena. So I think that would probably take an extended time and me thinking of specific things I should be asking.
Gotcha. Alrighty then. That sounds like we've got something that we can start with on our next session.
Yeah.
Is there?
So
Yep.
technically, what we want to do is for those who are going to send their people to go do something for them, they want to start it now before we end this scene, so that going into the next scene, that they're already working on
Yes,
it.
that's true. So is anybody going to be sending, anybody to kind of look into some of this stuff for them? Or are they going to do it hands-on?
I gotta go do it hands-on. I don't really have any people.
I'm gonna ask the journalism group at the school to see if they can come up with any leads.
Gotcha. And you actually have them as like as a group bond. Yeah, there we go. So that'll work for you. And that's one of those things where that's like a few text messages and phone calls.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
And the cool thing about group bonds is you can have them follow up on multiple things at once, depending upon if you want to spend wealth on that. So having them do that, you're going to cause it one strain because you're asking them to do stuff for you. And then that will allow them to go and follow up on one thing, or you can have them follow up on additional things, costing you 1 wealth per additional lead. So you can be like, well, I need you to check into this and into this and into this and into this, because they're a group, so they can multitask. Individuals, you can just be like, you can only ask them to do the one thing because they're just one person.
Yeah. So how'd you want to handle that, Cheyenne?
So right now I'm actually just going to have them investigate the building and see about if there's any other additional information that may or may not have been published on it.
Okay.
And because we don't know enough right now, and I only have a wealth of 1 of all of everything else that's been going on for me to be able to send them off just yet.
Yeah. Okay.
And
that especially does sound kind of like a fairly simple thing that, one journalist asks of another.
exactly.
Yeah. And that makes
so then Crystal, what's your influence?
2.
And then what's your level of your bond?
3.
So you're gonna roll. No, I'm sorry. Associated skill check. What's the associated skill check for checking out the journalism? Probably knowledge. Todd, what do you think?
I don't know about that, actually. I mean,
For getting
knowledge
info, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, and getting like some more obscure info, but it almost kind of, I'm game for that. Like if you want to use knowledge, and sorry, I'm just trying to get to a skill list here.
It's cool. Yeah, it's influence plus whatever the associated skill is for whatever you're asking them to do. So if you're asking them to do it like sneakily, then possibly influence and stealth. But if it's just general journalism stuff, then it could just be plus knowledge.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I think it's probably plus knowledge, but
yeah, let's go with knowledge. Let's go with knowledge at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay,
so kind of poke around to see what exists.
So my influence rate, is it the influence rating with the group or the skill influence?
It's influence and influence the skill plus the associated skill. So influence and knowledge is what you're rolling.
Okay.
And this is to say how fast they come back with the information.
Okay. 4 successes with 2 10s.
Wow.
So
Oh my goodness.
So it says here they would come back in 4 minus the number of successes that you rolled scenes at a minimum of 1. So that means next scene they'll immediately have the information because they were able to get it really fast for you.
Nice.
Gotcha. Yeah, that'll work actually.
And then Todd, you roll the bond's level. So you said it's a level 4 for your journalism?
3.
3. So Todd, you would roll 3 dice, and each let me see, and each lead, each success gives one piece of information or whatever.
Okay. So at the beginning of the next scene, 1 piece of information.
There you go.
Okay.
So that's what just happened there. Yay! But that'll be helpful. Yeah, and for my landmark thing, I have to go there to use it. Phil said he has to go and use his. And in Carol, do you have anybody to send to do something?
No, I just pretty much have to do it myself, but she
Okay.
might go back to her place to do it because if she's, she doesn't want anyone else's phone talking when it shouldn't be.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I have Anita, but I don't think Anita. I don't have any. Like, I can't send Anita to activate my landmark bond. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so the if it was something else like side thing, I'd be like, I'll just ask her to go do that. But since it's not, I have to go do the other thing. So we'll do that at the beginning of the next one.
All right. Cool. There we go. That sounds good. That sounds like we got an objective. And then, so basically at this point, everyone kind of disbands and kind of goes their separate ways with contact information firmly in hand. And this kind of like small, slowly growing migraine that's kind of building in your head, just trying to wrap your brains around all this kind of stuff. And that ends part 1 of our session. Now,
Woo-hoo.
here's something a little fun that I like to do at the end of sessions.
Mhm.
I like to basically provide 2 sneak peeks on what could happen in the next session. I like to do a player sneak peek, and then I like to do a GM sneak peek.
Okay.
So, who would like to give kind of like a sneak peek of what we could see in the next session? Kind of like coming up on the next episode of New Gods of Detroit. If there's no volunteers, I will ask for a roll off. Roll a d10. Whoever's got the highest number is getting the spotlight.
I rolled a 2.
So it's not Eloy.
Probably, unless everybody else rolls 1s.
I got a
Oh.
10.
Oh, there we go. So it's Crystal. Crystal gets it. Okay, Crystal.
The
So
old school dice are really rocking it tonight.
so what is a sneak peek that we get of our next game?
Does this have to do with my character or?
Could do with your character, could do with the entire group. It could be what we see from somebody else, that we maybe haven't even met yet. It's like, what is just like a cool little, that's going to happen next time thing? That-
What is my connection to Judith Montoya?
Gotcha. So some kind of revelation
Yeah.
of Judith Montoya. Alrighty then.
I think mine is going to be that that I'm going to take the form of Chance Howard and try and interact with his band to see if there's other information I can get out of them.
Oh, alrighty then. So there we go. So we've got 2 of them. Does anyone else want to throw any other ones out? I'm game for others. Let's do it.
Okay, so a possibly comedic comedy of errors as Molly tries to keep her powers secret from Elliot.
Gotcha.
And there'll definitely be more summoning of cars.
All right, I'm just writing these
So
down.
more Marvel references. Got it.
More Marvel references.
He's 20. Like all of his culture is essentially like from 10 on up is like all of his culture is essentially comic movies.
Pretty much, that makes sense.
Right.
Let's get a little more specific with it. What is the car that Case summons up?
Oh, okay. Then so Case is gonna summon the Ford Mustang Shelby.
Nice.
The GT350.
GT350 done. And alrighty then. Now I'm gonna share my little sneak peek with you. We actually see Harvey Keitel on the opposite end of the street across from the diner as the 4 of you walk away and kind of go your separate ways. And he's actually on a payphone, believe it or not. And that's when, the phone's ringing and actually somebody goes and picks up. We don't hear who that person is, but that's when Harvey Keitel turns and looks and kind of turns around. So like if this was a TV show, he's looking right to the camera and just be like, hey, don't talk. It's me. I got some good news for you. I found them. And then it cuts to black.
Ooh.
Ooh.
There we go.
Nice.
Awesome.
So let's do some XP.
Sure.
So everybody gets 1 XP because you all attended. As we say here in Canada, it's the Participation Award of XP.
And then Carol just dropped off, so I don't know what happened, but she's gone.
Okay. Well, and it's a good thing. Hopefully, she was able to at least
Oh,
catch
here
the
she
little.
is.
Hey!
Yay!
Alrighty then. Someone help me out with the XP chart. What page am I looking for here? I lost some of my little markers.
Here,
Did I get
Wait a
you
sec.
all
I got it. There we go. Yay, Carol, you're back.
page 128.
I flipped
Yeah.
out for some reason.
Yeah, that's fine. What's the last thing that you did here?
I was about to make a bad Fjord Mjolnir joke to Phil.
Okay, so that was why your computer saved us
Yeah,
from the bad joke. Got it. See, your AI, you do have an AI that's like super smart there.
So one of the things I threw on next on the next story, basically a little sneak preview thing, is that we actually see Harvey Keitel on the phone telling somebody that he has found the new gods.
Ooh.
Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so there we go. So everyone gets 1 XP for showing up. Bum, bum, bum. Let's see, a Bond scene.
Nobody really had any Bond scenes.
No, I was kind of wondering about Laura Ingram because in a way she is one of your worshippers.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but I don't think we did any we didn't utilize that to make it super fun.
Yeah.
I don't think I get that one.
Yeah, okay. There were no curses that came up at this point. A spotlight award. So let's see. And I like to put this into the player's hands. So who amongst the 4 of you tonight, really kind of took charge of a situation, became an effective leader, or just really kind of did something tonight to shine above the rest? Does anyone have any votes for any player in particular?
I think my vote would be for Phil.
I was going to vote for Eloy. I thought Javier did a good job of kind of wrangling us together towards the end. We were kind of I think I was too stunned to understand what to do.
I would have to go with Javier too.
Okay, so that's 2 votes for Javier. Okay, so there we go. So Javier gets
I'll
1
take
XP.
it.
There we go. A teamwork award. Anyone who worked hard to make sure everyone at the table, not just themselves, had any fun.
Oh, well, see, that one might have gone to me and maybe not the spotlight one. I don't know.
I'm going to actually, you know what? There's nothing that says I have to only give it to just one person. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give all of you a teamwork award.
Hey, look at that.
There we go. 1 XP for everybody. Because y'all had to put up with my technical glitches at the beginning. And I feel like that deserves some XP. Now, a memorable moment in the game. Something that was like, that's so awesome. I actually, let me see. I made a couple of quick little notes here about some cool stuff that happened. Cheyenne, that moment, or Crystal, actually. Now I'm going to talk to the actor, not the character. Crystal, the thing that you came up with for the going underwater and everything like that, there was something about that. It was like, as soon as you said it, that's why I made the crack about having a CG budget, because it's like, oh, I could totally see there being like this underwater sequence in so I'm going to give you the XP for that memorable moment.
Sweet. Woohoo.
And then let's take a moment and have each of you kind of say, like, one thing that you learned, that your character learned this session. I think it's a little bit kind of self-explanatory, but so what is something that your characters learn in this session other than, oh, we're gods? Because that's a little obvious.
I learned that if you use hand motions to use your powers, they don't work.
We're not sure that's true yet.
I mean, I'm just going off of my experience so far.
Gotcha.
Um,
All right, there we go. So there's 1 XP right
I,
there.
I learned that Eloy does not appreciate my sense of humor.
Oh, there's an XP for
Wait,
Molly.
what? No, your AI doesn't appreciate your sense of humor.
No, I think my character learned that coincidental run-ins possibly aren't so coincidental. And it actually kind of hurts because she considers herself a people watcher. And apparently she was not watching closely enough. So
Got
it's given
Yep.
her something to think about.
I like it. Give yourself an XP for that. Crystal.
Cheyenne learned that she needs to be a lot more conscious about what she does with her trash. Because crazy.
Nice. I like it. Give yourself an XP for that. And then Phil, what about Case?
I learned that things are pretty okay if you just follow weird older gentlemen around. Like
I was kind of hoping somebody would say, "I've learned to never watch a Harvey Keitel movie ever again. I don't trust."
no, when weird
Phil's
old
a great actor, you know.
when weird older men invite me places, I'm going. Like
Yeah,
that's
that's right. Done.
So
There's the
maybe
next.
we better have a talk.
In bathrobes. Don't forget, in bathrobes.
no in bathrobe for you. He was in a
Oh, that's
suit
right. He
for
was wearing
me.
something different for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Well, the
He-
bathrobe was why I went. So.
and that says more about Javier than I think we expected.
It does.
Okay, cool. And then I always like to wrap up every session with kind of like a little bit of a pro and con thing. Basically, it's like, if there was something that you really enjoyed about tonight, I would totally love to hear it because I'm a sucker for compliments. But also, too, that tells me, yeah, we're going to keep doing more of that kind of stuff. If there was something that you felt was kind of like, this part was a little slow, this part didn't quite do, I think, what you had meant to do. So if there's any kind of, pros and cons, and I'm totally fine with, I believe in, all criticism is constructive criticism. So feel free to barrage.
I liked how everyone got a turn. Everyone got some screen time.
Hmm.
Okay, cool.
I liked your prelude. I like the way you asked the questions. Kind of let us all have like little little moments to shine, little all those the little weird stories and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool.
Vignettes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of slide into everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed like having the cut scenes type of thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I dug that too. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So lots of cutscenes. That always works out well. Good. Was there anything that seemed like it was a little bit off, or something that, or even too, is like, something that you would definitely like to see more of next time?
I think from a mechanic standpoint, we had like one scene that was in 3 different locations, and we technically should have paid free time because we spent like a long period of time in each of those locations, which would technically make those different scenes, even though they were all interrelated. So I don't know. So if I was GMing, I would have drained more free time, especially from this group, because all of us have tons of free time. And as the GM, like, your job is to make us lose our free time. Like, that's your job.
Yeah. And I did think about that. To tell you the truth, the teleportation thing was something that just happened spontaneously. It was just like, well, if I'm gonna get Cheyenne to do anything to showcase her powers, I got to get her by the lake, and you're in a diner.
True.
So it's like, okay, so I got to teleport them there.
Unless we're gonna have more toilets overflowing.
Yeah, which is like, I think one overflowing toilet is fine.
Per session. We'll have one next time.
That's right.
Yeah.
2 is a symphony. But yeah, and so but the main thing too is like, I didn't want to kind of force everyone to have to spend free time, because I was just like, and then we go here, and then we go there, and now it's a diner, and all that kind of stuff.
Well, true.
So
but that's kind of the game, though. Like,
it is true. Yeah, I wanted to kind of keep the free time to be available for the investigation part. Like the way I'm having this set up is that part 1 was the kind of elaborate introduction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Part 2 is going to be the investigation, and then part 3 is basically, going to be the conclusion, the realization of what's going on, and then the confrontation that's going to come with it.
Well, and that's what you want, though, is you want to drain, you want to get rid of some of our free time right up front.
True.
So that during the investigation is when we start running out, and then we're like, oh crap, now we have to make hard choices. How are we going to do that and do the investigation? So yeah, you could leave us with like tons so that it's all covered. But then it removes basically part of kind of the fun part, which is you're gonna throw shit at us.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yep. All right. Good point.
The cool thing about gaming with GMs is because we all think about how to shoot ourselves in the foot.
oh yeah, I want you to screw me. That's how this works.
Because it'll prompt scenes with bonds and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, please make it harder for my character.
Yeah. Well, and was one of the things I knew with this one too, is like one of the kind of easier aspects of this. I mean, even though I have been shitting bricks over this since I said, yeah, sure, I'll GM. But it was the comfort of knowing that the 4 of you I know are competent players and GMs and all this other kind of stuff. So I also knew that I could just lob the ball at each of you and you'd be able to deliver. Like this isn't necessarily the kind of approach that I would always use like at a con game, because I have tried that in a few cases, and it's a lot of blanks of, can I go last? You are last. But I knew I didn't have to worry about that here, so that takes a lot of the pressure off. So, but yes, okay. So I got a note on here to be less generous with the free time.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, everyone loses 1 free time. No, we won't.
I'm good with it.
Thanks,
I'd be fine. So free time and wealth does carry over to the next session as well. So whatever we have now, that's what we'll start the next one with. So make note of that.
Yeah. And we are making an exception with the Pantheon pool. So there's now 2. I am keeping track with the Pantheon pool. Like I said, I mean, everyone else is encouraged to as well. But so there's now 2, and we are doing the exception where instead of it kind of resetting, we're doing a continuous one for the whole story, because this is a new Pantheon.
Right.
So, cool.
All right.
Alrighty then.
Well then.
Anything else before we all split up and go our separate ways?
I did have one comment to make,
Sure.
which was, and this was also on my part too, is that I meeting Harvey Weinstein. Or not Harvey Weinstein.
Whoa, dude.
Whoa.
That game just took a whoa.
X card.
Yeah, no. Meeting, meeting. Now I'm blanking on his name, but
Harvey Keitel. Yeah.
Harvey Keitel. Like the way that it happened set off a bunch of alarms for the character, and as a player, I kind of did like basically didn't fully play what she would have done, just so I could keep the story moving.
Oh, true, because it was in like a cop uniform. You're like, I know my rights. Okay.
Yeah,
perfect.
Like she in any other situation, she would have not done any of that.
Yeah.
And as a player, I kind of glossed over that to make sure I kept the story moving. But that's a comment on that.
Yeah. And as soon as you said that too, is like, I know my rights. I'm like, oh, I just used the wrong approach for this character. Like the absolute wrong approach.
Oh yeah, had you used the cop on Javier would have been like, sure, okay, yeah, let's go. Like he wouldn't have cared. He would have been like just fine. But yeah, you used the cop on the rebel character. Like that's her archetype. So.
Well, yeah, and it's because like at the end of the session 0, and I asked you, like who's your favorite Harvey Keitel character, and both Carol and Crystal said, basically his character from the National Treasure movies, and it's just like, oh, okay, so he's gonna approach them as like some kind of a cop or something like that.
Gotcha. That's why you asked that, because it was
but I didn't
whatever
put
you said your
together
favorite
and
was.
like, yeah, exactly.
And that totally makes sense. So
Yeah, so really, it's your fault, Crystal, is what he's saying. It's your own fault.
No,
You picked the form of the destroyer.
exactly. He is your Stay Puft Marshmallow.
Alrighty then, cool. So we'll do this again in 2 weeks, and we will carry on with part 2, name undetermined.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll see everybody in 2 weeks. Thanks for coming and watching. Hopefully it was fun for you guys. It was definitely fun for us.
Good night.
See you
Good
guys.
night.
Good night, everybody.